now, 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you 3 to 6 this afternoon. We're talking Royals. We'll talk some Chiefs, KU. Might be some big K-State news here in just a matter of minutes. All that and so much more is coming up over the next 3 hours here on 580 Sports Talk. Thank you so much for stopping by and being a part of the program with us. We'll talk some Royals to lead it off in just a moment. It's only getting worse, which is not great for the Kansas City Royals. They were one hit last night, and a game started by Jacob deGrom. That's bad, but look, it's Jacob deGrom.
It's understandable.
Hold on. I'm getting word he did not make it through the fifth inning. And the Royals still got one hit and lost.
Yeah, remember I said, hey, you want to get into the bullpen? They got into the bullpen early and managed one hit in 5 innings against the bullpen.
Yeah, it sucked. And the game was over in a flash. I didn't have the game on for a bit, and I thought, I'm going to go, guess I'll check the score, see if it's gotten any worse. Game's over. It took 2 hours, almost on the dot, to get that game done with, which I guess if you're going to get embarrassed, you might as well get it done with quickly.
Yeah, I mean, all these losses are done 30 minutes quicker than they might normally have been with the pitch clock, which means that is now, or 17 games in, the Royals are 4-13, 13 losses. That is 6.5 hours of your life that you have saved in the last 3 weeks, not having to watch the Royals lose because the games are 30 minutes shorter.
Thanks, pitch clock.
You have saved 6.5 hours. Think of what you can do in 6.5 hours.
Come up with a lot of things you dislike about this Royals team.
Beat Super Mario Brothers.
Do a speed run of the first Legend of Zelda game.
Put together a puzzle. Learn a new recipe. There are so many things that you can do. Go for a walk.
Get a fifth of your way through your pilot's license.
Go for 2 walks. There are lots of things you could do. By the way, if you go for a walk, you will have done so more often than both Michael Massey and Nate Eaton to this point this season.
We will talk more about this Royals disaster class coming up here in just a moment. We also got some Chiefs news today. They've got a new backup quarterback. It's Blaine Gabbert, which in and of itself, is that really earth-shattering? No. But I do think there is an interesting roster numbers question for the Chiefs we can ask as they now bring in a third quarterback going into the start of the offseason program. We'll discuss that coming up later this hour. We've also got some Random Question Tuesday coming up in our next segment. Also, later on today, Dane Brugler from The Athletic, he put out a 7-round mock draft this week, which I always say, and I put this in all the Mock Draft Monday posts we put on 580WIBW.com. Nothing but respect to anyone. I don't care if it's your full-time job. I don't care if you're a blog boy. I don't care if you're just trying to do something new. You make a 7-round mock draft, you are a sicko in the most impressive sort of way. Nothing but credit to you. That's a lot of players, a lot of work, a lot of fits. Respect. This is the most boring Chiefs mock draft ever. Like, oh my. It's mayo on white bread with a glass of lukewarm water. That's what this is.
Sometimes we refer to the sexy pick when we're talking about drafts. It's always been kind of an uncomfortable turn of phrase, but it's a fairly pervasive one when you're talking about drafts and mock drafts and things like that. This is the least sexy draft ever. This is like Roseanne singing the national anthem at that Padres game that one time. That's the level of sexy this draft is.
Yeah. There's not a ton of star, but like next year, just by virtue of who the quarterbacks are, it's going to be a sexy draft. But I mean, you get to day 2 and it's like, yeah, these are nice players. I heard of that guy. Yeah, these are nice players, but there's not a whole lot of can't miss throughout the draft this year. And this mock draft we'll get to, there's not a lot of misses, but it's just a lot of, okay, sure. That's fine, I guess. So we'll talk about that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. Michael Swain is going to stop by for Jayhawk Weekly. A lot of KU transfer portal news to get to, so he'll join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll preview Game 2 of the Royals and Rangers, and Game 3 to that degree, because they've got a day game tomorrow. We'll be on a little bit late on tomorrow's show. What is wrong with you, and so much more, all coming up today here on 580 Sports Talk.
We can get to some breaking news.
Just broke.
Breaking news right off the bat. The Kansas State Wildcats have added one of the biggest deal basketball recruits they have added since we really started keeping track of basketball recruiting in the way that we do in the modern era of covering college basketball. Just moments ago, 2024 5-star point guard David Castillo from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, pledged his commitment to Kansas State. He is the highest rated Wildcat basketball commitment in over a decade per the 24/7 Sports database. Castillo chose K-State over KU and Oklahoma State. This is a big deal get for Jerome Tang and company.
Yeah, it's a really good get for K-State. His recruitment has been a little weird. He was a big-time prospect from the jump, and I know KU for a while was really, really interested. And then they've, not for any one reason or another, but they decided to go in some different directions. Castillo's in a weird spot where his high school team's not very good. Usually you see like top 40 player in a class, top 30, and it's like, oh yeah, their team's undefeated, they won state, whatever. But in Oklahoma, the way the classes are set up, they're playing a bunch of like Oklahoma City and Tulsa schools that can, bring in all these other talent and bigger teams and all that. So he was one of the few really good players on his high school program. Now, obviously, he plays AAU and all that too. Does he play for the Trae Young AAU program? I actually don't know.
I don't remember if it's, I don't think it's the Trae Young program.
I feel like it's a well-known program that he plays
They
for.
were a national champion in 2020.
There you go. So it's a good get. There's no getting around it. This is a good get. Future point guard for you, a little bit bigger than the guys that K-State has had in the recent past, i.e. Marquise Noel, a little bit bigger than who they're aiming to bring in this year. They're looking for Aaron Estrada from Hofstra. They're looking for Max Asmus, most importantly, from Oral Roberts. Both of them truly small guards. A little size, 6'1" point guard, you're feeling pretty good. So I like that get a lot for K-State. We'll talk about that more, what it'll mean for K-State going forward, coming up during our 580 Sports Talk headlines later today. But shout out to the Cats. That's a really good move for them. Really good addition.
Yeah, big time. And I believe he was with the Team Griffin. So it might have been Blake Griffin.
Oh, Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the wrong NBA guy from Oklahoma.
Right.
Team Griffin.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was a pretty well-known program.
His AAU program. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will get to that coming up a little bit later on in the show. We are, of course, going to take your texts, 785-272-9429. We are also going to take your comments on the YouTube feed. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of our YouTube channel. We might as well just plug our noses and jump right on in. The Royals were one hit last night by the Texas Rangers. And that's in a game in which Jacob deGrom had to leave early. Matt Duffy, again, offensive savior of the Royals, Matt Duffy, is the only one who got a hit all game long. Let me give you a couple trending statistics for the Royals through their first 17 games of the year, Dan. In 6 of those 17 games, they have had 4 or fewer hits. More than a third of their games, they're averaging less than a half a hit per inning. That's what they're doing offensively right now. They have had 3 games so far, so more often than 1 in every 6. 3 games with 2 or fewer hits. They have been shut out 4 times, and they have 2 other games in which they have scored exactly 1 run. The sample size is still small relative to a full season. We are just barely past 10% of the games being played at this point.
Yeah, just passed after last night. Yeah.
This is miserable. Like,
it's the worst offense in baseball. I don't think there's, you pick a number, pick a stat. It's either the worst or in the bottom 5. And when it was grim after the first week of the season, we said, hey, look, there are some trends, some underlying numbers here that suggest that things are going to get better. Like, we talked a lot about hard hit rate in that first week, that the Royals were hitting the ball harder, more often than any other team in baseball. That is no longer the case. I'm sure you're all stunned to hear that, but they still rank in the top 5 in baseball in hard hit rate. They're at about 44, 45% of the time hitting the ball hard. And they're still top 5 in the league in exit velocity. In fact, they're 4th in the league in both of those categories. The teams that rank above them in hard hit rate, Atlanta, the Dodgers, and Tampa Bay. 3 pretty darn good offenses, right? And in exit velocity, the teams that are hitting the ball harder than the Royals in terms of exit velocity on average, Atlanta, the Dodgers, and Baltimore, who's got some good young hitters. They got some pop in that lineup. So it would stand to reason you would look at hitting the ball hard and hitting the ball hard often. Those would be good things for an offense, right? Generally speaking, they are. those portend good outcomes, usually, for your offense. Why does this offense stink so bad? Two big reasons. Number one, they strike out a ton. They're tied for second in baseball. They strike out 26.5% of the time.
Which, in other words, if you're not great with percentages and fractions, more than a quarter of the time. One of every 4 Royals batters is going to strike out, at least.
And that is tied for second worst in baseball.
Amazing it's not worse.
Yeah. Now, the only team strike out more often is the Giants, and they are roughly an average offensive baseball team. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world to strike out. An out is an out. And sometimes you'd rather strike out than like hit into a double play, right? Like, the strikeout is not the end of the world. It's an out, but you're also not giving yourself a chance to reach base. You're not giving yourself a chance to record a hard hit ball or, register a hit that rates in the 90 miles an hour and exit velocity. If you can't make contact, then those hard hit rates and exit velocities, they don't come into play when you don't make contact. And then the other thing that the Royals don't do, stop me if you've heard this one before, because I'm sure you have, because it's been true about every Royals team that has ever existed. They do not draw walks. They are walking in 7%, an even 7% of their plate appearances so far this year. That is tied for 5th worst in baseball. I guess 6th worst. They're tied for 25th. So you'd go 30, 29, 28, 27. I guess, yeah, tied for 5th. So, yeah, tied for 5th worst in baseball in walk rate. So they don't get on base. They don't make enough contact. When they do make contact, they're still on the unlucky side on batting averages on balls in play. Like, it's not going to be this bad all year, but that's why it's this bad. Not enough contact and not enough guys on base. When you don't do that, you don't give yourself an opportunity to score. And they didn't last night. And they were down 3-0 before they swung the bats. And I'm sure that many of you listening probably had the same reaction that I did when I heard Jordan Lyles versus Jacob deGrom, and it's 3-0 before the Royals can pick up the bats. I'm going to find something else to do with my Monday night.
And because, of course, this is how it all unfolds, Royals fans instantly got to do one of their favorite activities, and that is bash on Hunter Dozier because he committed an error right off the rip. Game starts, miscue, 3-run home run. I mean, it's one of those it rains, it pours. When it rains, it pours kinds of situations. But, I mean, does any of this really... Should we be surprised that any of this is happening? Like, Hunter Dozier, bad baseball player, made a bad play. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Pitching. I don't even have that many bad things to say about Jordan Lyles last night. I mean, went 8 innings, gave up 4 runs. That's honestly not that bad.
No, you take that from Jordan Lyles. He gave up the 2 home runs, but other than that, he did Jordan Lyles stuff.
Yeah.
He pitched a lot of innings, and in a reasonable scenario, like 4 runs in 8 innings you got a decent chance to score 4 or 5 runs your own if you're an average major league offense.
How rare is it in modern baseball that even any pitcher, even on a good day, gets 8 innings? I mean, you might see 7, and it's, oh, man, you had a great day. Great day.
I don't think we've had more than 1 complete game yet, and
I'm surprised we even had 1.
Yeah, Sandy Alcantara, who won the Cy Young in the National League last year, threw. I know we have had at least the one. No, Garrett Cole threw a 2-hit shutout the other day.
Just the other day.
So,
yeah, that's right.
Those are the 2. Those are the 2. We're 17 games in, 2.5 weeks into a Major League Baseball season. 2 complete games. So, yeah, guys don't work deep into games like that. Jordan Lyles is one of those guys who can do it. That's why he's here.
That's extremely valuable for this team.
Yes, it is. That's why he's here on a multi-year contract. There is value in that, even if they are not like 2-hit shutout innings like Garrett Cole in that example. He let the bullpen rest and gave his team a chance. And that team didn't take the chance because they got 1 hit. 1 hit. And here's the thing, too, with the Royals that is really frustrating. They're 1-10 at home.
Yeah, that's pretty awful.
1-10, playing in front of their home fans. They are 1-10. And I know, I was around. I was in Wichita, but I was around 2014, 2015. He'd tail into 2013 too. I know people love this baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
In good times and in bad, people love the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City and the surrounding area, great baseball town, as they say. I firmly believe that. But man, how can you justify the attention, the time, the financial commitment that going to a game is? It's not that much. You can get to a game for pretty cheap anymore. But how do you justify the energy? How do you justify the time when you're 1-10 at home? Man, that
there's no reason to even go to the park.
Yeah, when you can't win your home games. Right? That's rough. That's where it really gets. And look, I'm sure nobody's more aware of this and nobody's more disappointed than this than the guys in that clubhouse.
For sure.
The one thing you have to keep in mind when you're talking about this is if it bothers you, trust. It bothers the guys who are trying to make a living doing this 10, 20 times more than it bothers you. But when you combine the level of offensive ineptitude we've seen to this point this season and the level of losing at home, that's the kind of play, that's the kind of performance that gets people checked out. I mean, never mind, we talk about, we joke about, hey, if they're hanging around by training camp, they're interesting right up until Chiefs training camp.
Mm-hmm.
We're good. We say that as sports content creators. We just need them to be interesting until training camp, and then whatever happens after that is whatever. We make that joke. Man, they can get to Memorial Day. They can get to the turn of the calendar. And we're talking about this being just miserable to watch.
I wonder why. Like, you've got a new approach. It's not a completely devoid of talent team. Like, why is it that they cannot figure this out offensively? Plate discipline is a thing. I mean, you can't just as a group say, all right, guys, let's work on plate discipline. And that's not how it works. This also isn't Little League. But, the Royals historically have been bad at drawing walks. And this year, it looked like maybe they had turned that around. They drew 10 walks in the first 2 games.
I remember that.
13 through the first 3. I mean, that's excellent. You're drawing between 3 and 5 walks a game. Oh, you're going to be fine.
So really with this lineup, there's only 2 guys that have done that, like historically, and historically is kind of a misnomer because we only have evidence of MJ Melendez won 80% of a big league season. MJ Melendez's walk rate is up a tick from last year. Why hasn't that resulted in more production for a guy who's hitting 158? Probably because he's striking out 36% of the time. That can't happen. Vinny Pasquantino's walking more than he's striking out. That's kind of his thing. Bobby Witt has walked more. He's almost doubled his walk rate. He was about 4.8% last year. He's over 7% so far this year. That's not dramatic. It's not elite, but it's progress, right? And that's the progress you would expect from a guy who was, depending on who you ask, the first, second, or third best prospect in baseball entering last year. Bobby Witt Jr. is a good hitter. Vinny Pasquantino's good, maybe even a great hitter. And there's still some room, I think, for growth for Melendez, who continues to hit the ball hard when he makes contact, which that's been the issue for him.
Right.
But too many black holes, man. Michael Massey and Nate Eaton are combined 6 for 65 at the plate with 30 strikeouts in those 65 at-bats and as many walks combined as you and me, Brendan, and we don't play.
No, we do not. I was pretty decent at drawing walks back in the old junior ball Little League days because I sucked. So it was better off if I didn't swing.
See, I was up there to hack, baby. I was up there to hack. I was not up there to watch for. I was up there to get my swing off because I never got to hit. I got DH for the bulk of my final 2 years of my high school career. So
fair enough.
If I got the bat in my hand, I was doing one thing with it, standing there with it on my shoulder. But Hunter Dozier is 6 for 39 with 15 strikeouts and 1 walk. Sal Perez has struck out 13 times and walked just once. And okay, that's baked in with Salvi. We know that's who he is as a hitter. Okay, you can have one guy who, and Perez doesn't strike out a ton, but he's not going to draw walks. That's not his game.
I mean, his strikeout rate is actually substantially below the team average.
Yeah.
Which is bleak.
So it's just a team full of guys right now who are not great hitters and are also not hitting great. There's a difference, right? You can be a great hitter and not hit great for a week.
Sure. I mean, that's Perez. He's a great player, great offensive catcher. He's just not hitting well right now.
Yeah, he's not producing. The OPS is barely over 600 right now, and maybe feeling a little pressure of that C on his shirt and trying to carry the offense a little bit. Maybe that's weighing on him a bit. But Vinny's hitting and Bobby's hitting, and that's about it.
Can you name, without looking, I've got the list right in front of me, the 13 position players for the Royals right now. There are 3 that are above average major league hitters according to OPS plus. So your OPS, based on where you play your games, normalized to the rest of the league. There are 3 that are above average of the 13 position players.
Now, I'll admit, I'm not looking at it right now, but I have looked at it enough to feel like I know.
Okay.
It's Vinny, it's Vinny, Bobby Witt Jr., and it's Matt Duffy.
That is it. Vinny Pasquantino, OPS plus of 146. Small sample, but that's great. That's phenomenal.
No,
I've got not a single complaint about Vinny Pasquantino.
No, Vinny's doing Vinny things. Vinny is on that track towards maybe being the Royals All-Star this year, which you may remember I predicted that.
Bobby Witt Jr., slightly above average, but he started out super cold at the very beginning. He's hit much better. I don't have complaints about Witt. And I mean, look, Matt Duffy doesn't play much, but he's hitting when he does. So far on the year, he has had all of 25 at-bats. He's 9 of 25, has not drawn a walk, unsurprisingly. Has struck out 5 times, but he's hitting when he's out there. He's given you more than, I don't know, another guy who is playing third base this year. Who am I talking about? Hunter Dozier, who has an OPS plus of 13. And it's very easy with OPS plus to determine how much better or worse than average you are, because since everything's normalized to 100, if you're below that, however many points below 100 you are, that's how many percentage points worse than average you are. So let's say you're at 90. That means you're 10% worse than average. And to the same point, if you're 103, like Bobby Witt Jr., you're 3% better than average. Good number to be at. Hunter Dozier at 13 is 87% worse than the average Major League Baseball player. That is an everyday for 5 years baseball player.
It's too many ciphers in the lineup right now. And of the guys who are ciphers in the lineup right now, like I would expect Salvador Perez to, like there's some guys who the back of the baseball card doesn't lie. Like Salvador Perez is going to bounce back to some career norms offensively, I would imagine. I think that there's more production to come from Melendez. I think that there's more production to come even from a guy like Edward Olivares, who I like as an offensive player.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe, I mean, he hasn't had a ton of major league time. Maybe a 86 OPS plus. Maybe he is about 10 to 15% worse than average as a hitter. Maybe that's what Franmil Reyes is at this point. When he's not hitting the ball over the fence, he's doing a lot of striking out.
Probably.
Like maybe Kyle Isbell can't hit. Maybe Michael Massey.
Don't say that too loud. Bolton hasn't left for the day yet.
Maybe Nate Eaton and Michael Massey aren't big league ready bats right now, or maybe won't ever be. Maybe Jackie Bradley Jr. can't hit.
Yeah,
we've known that for 3-4 years. We know he can't hit. So that's a lot of zeros, man. That's a lot of automatic outs you're rolling out there, and it's hard to win baseball games. It's hard to score any runs when you're running out that many outs. And the immediate fixes are not really there. Like there's nobody pounding down the door at AAA right now. These guys are going to have to do better. Even Hunter Dozier's not going to OPS 406 for an entire season. That's what Ted Williams hit in 1941. And that's Hunter Dozier's OPS.
I'd be kind of impressed. Like, damn, you really went that long with that OPS.
Yeah.
It would be impressive. Incredibly disappointing and depressing, but very impressive.
If there's good news on the horizon, hopefully it is that the last time the Royals saw Nathan Eovaldi last week, they tuned him up pretty good. Scored 10 runs in that game. And maybe once again, Eovaldi will prove to be sort of a cure for what ails the Royals offense tonight. But yeah, last night was grim. There's just not a whole lot else to say about it.
We will talk more about that upcoming matchup, the next 2 upcoming matchups, in fact, between the Royals and Rangers later on in the show today. Right now, we've got to get to a commercial break. We'll come back, play some Random Question Tuesday on 580 Sports Talk. getting started on this Tuesday afternoon on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you up until 6 o'clock today in the start of Royals baseball. It's time for Random Question Tuesday. My question for you today, Dan, what are your thoughts on, and I'll put this in air quotes, the algorithms, other than the fact that they're, taking over our lives and dictating everything that is ever given to us? Like when you're, I don't know if you use Spotify, but if you're using Spotify to listen to music or a podcast, or you're watching Netflix or Peacock or something, when you choose something to watch, or YouTube, or we're broadcasting, obviously, when you get, here's 100 things recommended just for you. Here's your personalized list of recommended songs or movies or shows or whatever. Do you like that? Do you like to follow those? Or do you prefer to say, don't tell me what I want, I'm going to pick what I want?
So there's a tweet I always think about when it comes to the algorithm, because some are better than others, right? Like I do. I have Spotify Premium, and every now and again, Spotify will come up with hey, we curated this playlist for you based upon the artist that you listen to, and it will recommend things I've never heard before that kind of sound like that artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found some bands and some songs that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, there's a sophistication, I feel like, to the Spotify algorithm. Like the Apple Music algorithm is like, hey, we see that you like rap. Here's Ass by Big Sean. Like, gee, thanks. Not what I want to hear at all. That's a tweet that lives rent free in my head. So some algorithms are better than others. Sometimes I don't know how the algorithm functions. Like for a while, Facebook kept showing me, because I log into Facebook like once or twice a day, and it kept showing me videos of carpet being cleaned, like really dirty rugs being cleaned. And I had never requested to see that. It was never anything that I had Googled or thought about. But man, I kind of enjoy watching the carpet get deep clean. Like those videos are actually kind of addicting. The algorithm knows me better than I know myself in some cases. And that's horrifying. So I guess that would be ultimately where I'm coming around to. It's a little horrifying just how well the algorithm knows me. If I had to choose one word to describe how I feel about the algorithm, it would be horrifying.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair. Like, leave me alone, get out of my brain. There are moments when I'm cool with, like, YouTube videos generally. Like, if I'm watching something, I'm watching old baseball highlights or something. Yeah, okay, I would like to see these other Cubs highlights, or I would like to see like 100 plays at the plate in 100 seconds or whatever, like whatever the video is. Although I will say, I like professional wrestling. I do. But I feel like liking those and watching YouTube videos of like famous Attitude Era moments or whatever have proven to me that some things are more heavily weighted on certain platforms or on YouTube than others. Like if I could watch 15 hours of all 22 of this year's quarterback prospects and get like one recommended video. I watch one clip of like Undertaker versus Stone Cold at Bad Blood 98. I have nothing but WWE videos in my recommended section for like weeks. Like, no, I have other interests too. But like if we don't have Netflix right now, but if I'm on Hulu and I'm watching an old episode of It's Always Sunny or something, it says, oh, you might like these 12 other shows. No, I know what I like, and it is none of these. Leave me alone. Then I get very picky about it.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you show what you allow the algorithm to find, because I remember, long story, but when I was living in Northwest Kansas, I DJ'd a high school prom.
Yeah.
And I was trying to, the school, thank goodness, submitted a list of songs. I was in sheer panic trying to think, oh man, what songs are cool to like 17, 18-year-olds? I have no idea what to play.
Kids to listen to the Macarena.
Yeah. So thankfully they submitted a very long list of songs, and I'm going through it. There were a lot of songs I didn't recognize. There were some artists like I vaguely knew their names, but songs I didn't recognize. So I want to go through like on YouTube and see, okay, is this a fast song? Is this a slow song? Like what kind of song am I dealing with here? So then I could sequence my prom playlist like a pro. Even though I was not a pro, I was a rookie. And I decided, I better do this on incognito mode on YouTube, because I don't want the machines to think like, oh, I want to hear nothing but Cole Swindell songs. I never want to hear a Cole Swindell song. Apologies if you like Cole Swindell, not my speed. But that's what I did to make sure that that particular algorithm didn't blow up my YouTube music recommendations for the remainder of my natural life.
Entirely fair. I still get recommendations for like, oh, you might like this new music. Why would I like this new music? I do not have any interest in often foreign music. not interested. But I get those all the time.
What is your favorite ice cream treat, Brendan?
So we're not talking like an actual,
not a flavor,
thing,
like a
okay.
scoop of ice cream. I'm just asking, what is like your favorite ice cream treat thing? Way to enjoy ice cream. A bar, a sandwich, a scoopable treat.
I think number one for me is the Snickers ice cream bar. It's a Snickers bar, but instead of the nougat inside, it's just ice cream. And it's so good. Twix, also very good ice cream candy bar. That's probably number one. When I was a kid, I hated just regular ice cream sandwiches, the rectangular chocolate piece sandwich pieces, then the ice cream in the middle. I hated them for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like 18 and my dad had some in the freezer. And he's like, yeah, go have one. I said, I don't know why, but I'm hungry and it's hot. So sure. I thought, damn, this is good.
Yes.
What am I missing out on? So those have rocketed back up, as have the Chipwich, the cookie.
Love a Chipwich.
With the ice cream in the middle. Those, we handmade those at my fast food job when I was in college. We had handmade, homemade ones. Oh, they were good. So good.
Man, I want Chipwich right now.
So that's probably my top three.
See, I asked because my wife and I went and got Blizzards at Dairy Queen last night.
Nice.
And the Blizzard or treats like it, like I'm partial to the Blizzard. Maybe you're a McFlurry person. Basically, the frozen ice, the ice cream with the mix-ins that you eat with a spoon. Like that is the way I enjoy to eat ice cream.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Love a Blizzard.
Do you have a preference which of those types of things you get? Like Blizzard versus a Blast at Sonic versus a Concrete at Culver's? Do you have a preference of which one?
Sometimes like they come up with different like flavor combinations that I want to try at a certain place.
Yeah.
Like DQ rolled out a s'mores Blizzard and I wanted that immediately and it's really good. I can confirm. So it will depend on the flavor or, may even just depend on what side of town my wife and I happen to be on when we get the craving for ice cream. But no, there's not one like I probably lean Blizzard, but they're all good. Like a Sonic Blast. Absolutely. A McFlurry. Sure. Yeah, I'm generally speaking, like if it's an Oreo flavor, it's going to hit everywhere.
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
That's like the king of the Blizzard / McFlurry / Blast flavors to me.
I like anything with the Reese's Cups or the chocolate peanut butter. That's my go-to. Like you get a Culver's Concrete with chocolate ice cream and peanut butter cups in it. Oh yeah, that's good.
I saw last night Dairy Queen also has a peanut butter like puppy chow flavor Blizzard this summer. We might go back tonight.
I'm glad you told me this earlier that the s'mores Blizzard is back. Dairy Queen, hit Dan up if you want to help us out here.
Yeah, hit my line.
Abby, my Abby loves the s'mores Blizzard. Like we went to DQ one day last summer, one night after dinner, and I thought she was just gonna have a meltdown because they didn't have it, and the person at the register said they weren't going to bring it back this year. And I mean, she was going through it. So the fact that it's back now, we might be making a trip tonight.
My Abby was really a big fan of the s'mores shake that Sonic rolled out a couple of summers ago.
Yep.
And still misses it to this day. In fact, the last time we went to Sonic, she asked the car hop if they were bringing it back. The car hop had no idea. She made me ask.
Oh, that's good.
That's not fair for me to say. I asked for her, but she really wanted to know.
I don't blame her. You know what you know. You like what you like. I don't blame her at all. We've got to get to another break on 580 Sports Talk. Coming back on the other side of the timeout. Well, the Chiefs, they've got a new backup quarterback, which is in and of itself fine, whatever, not surprising. But how do the numbers work out for the offensive roster going into next year? We'll discuss next on 580 Sports Talk. The Kansas City Chiefs have been busy adding offensive depth over the last 3 weeks now. It was a few Fridays back, the report that Richie James was going to sign to the Chiefs to a 1-year deal. Last week, we found out that Justin Watson had agreed to a new 2-year contract. And now it is a new backup quarterback. We do not know the financials as of yet. The Chiefs haven't made the deal official, but it has been reported by pretty much every outlet. Pat McAfee's show had it first. Ian Rappaport's been on it. The Star has been on it. Blaine Gabbert is the newest member of the Kansas City Chiefs, reportedly, according to the Star, signing for a 1-year deal to be part of the quarterback's room, backing up the best QB in the league, Patrick Mahomes.
I know when that hotline Blaine, that can only mean one thing.
Hop on the Blaine train. He has been, I would say, a solid backup quarterback since he left Jacksonville. He was the 10th overall pick in 2011.
How did that happen?
He was a cover boy on Sports Illustrated, along with Cam Newton and, was it Jake Locker?
I think so.
I think it was Jake Locker. Yeah, that draft of quarterbacks, number 1 overall, Cam Newton. He won an MVP. Whatever you want to say about late career Cam was a really freaking good player.
Great player.
Then the rest of that draft, that's an all-time good draft.
Yes, the greatest draft ever, maybe 2011.
Cam Newton, Von Miller, Marcel Darius, AJ Green, Patrick Peterson, Julio Jones, Aldon Smith. That was your top 7. Of the next 5 draft picks, you got 2 more Pro Bowlers, Tyron Smith and J.J. Watt. Those 2 alternated with 3 terrible NFL quarterbacks. Jake Locker, who quit after like 5 years, he's like, I never really loved football all that much. Yeah. So he just stopped. Then Blaine Gabbert, who was a worse starter, but he's still in the league. And then Christian Ponder, who was terrible. By the way, that draft also included Robert Quinn, one of the Pounceys, Ryan Kerrigan, Cam Jordan.
Yeah, that's just
Cam Hayward. That's one of the best drafts ever.
Yeah, and that's just the first round. Like, we've talked about this 2011 draft. Like, Richard Sherman went in the 5th round, Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Justin Houston was in that class.
Yeah.
DeMarco Murray. Incredible.
Unbelievable.
Okay, you're right. Another Seahawk. He was the 99th pick in that class. What a class. But he had 3 bad years in Jacksonville as their starter. He went 5-22 in 27 starts. They stunk. They were awful. He was not any good as a starter. Gets traded to San Francisco, was a spot starter. He's just been a backup. He didn't start a single game in Tampa over the last 3 seasons, backing up Tom Brady because Brady's an Iron Man.
Hasn't started a game since 2018 with Tennessee.
Look, I mean, this is fine. This is what we expected the Chiefs to do at backup, right? Bring in a veteran. They've still got Shane Buechele, who they intentionally kept on the active roster all last season because they were afraid some other team would swoop in and take him. So they kept Buechele on the 53 all last year, even though they had Chad Henne. And Buechele has still never played in an NFL game. That's non-preseason. Now you have your veteran backup who is not going to do anything too dumb for you. He didn't have any interceptions over a handful of games that he played in mop-up time with the Buccaneers the last 3 years. He can do smart, safe things. He's probably worse than Chad Henne. Chiefs just love failed Jaguar starters as their backups, apparently. Probably not as good as Matt Moore, but also in a pinch, if you need him because Mahomes is hurt or rolled an ankle or whatever, he's probably not going to kill you. Here is my question, though, more importantly than the fact that they brought in the former Missouri Tiger, Blaine Gabbert, to be their backup quarterback. It's crazy that he's already a 12-year veteran, by the way. I remember that Sports Illustrated cover. What do the Chiefs do numbers-wise at quarterback? Because I don't think it makes sense to keep 3 again. Because you have Mahomes, obviously. I understood why they kept Buechele last year, because we think there's something here. Maybe we can groom him to be a long-term backup. We'll get to keep him for cheap. He knows the system. In a pinch, it'll work. He's relatively athletic. He can sit 1 more year behind Henne, move him into the backup job. But we knew they were going to bring in a veteran for competition. I don't think you can keep 3 again. 1, because as we've discussed a bunch, you're probably going to have some bloated numbers at the pass catcher positions, wide receiver, just because it's mostly depth guys. And then you're probably keeping at least 4 tight ends. Don't know what the running backs room will look like. Maybe you still go get another fullback. So I think you're going to really want that extra position to have some flexibility there. I don't think you can keep 3. So I think it's Gabbert or Buechele. The other one who loses the competition is going to get kicked to the curb.
And I think that the Chiefs had every intention going into last year and probably throughout last year, feeling like Shane Buechele is going to be our backup quarterback. We're going to groom him. We're going to develop him. We're going to have him develop a rapport with our receivers, with our coaches. And when Chad Henne calls it a career, Shane Buechele is going to be the guy that wears the ball cap, holds clipboard. He's going to be QB2. And then Chad Henne had to go win him a playoff game for the second time in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He had to go win him a playoff game. And I think this is not based on any inside information. This is just me speculating that the fact that the Chiefs have needed the backup quarterback to come in and not just play in relief, like had to get something from them to win and advance in the playoffs two of the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe this is, oh, we're worried that Patrick Mahomes is injury prone, but I think that the mindset is we now see the value of having somebody with long time NFL experience as our number 2 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So they can go in a game. Like, imagine if the Chiefs had to give the reins to Shane Buechele for his first NFL snaps in that playoff game against Jacksonville.
They probably lose.
They probably lose that game. So I think that the Chiefs have reoriented a little bit. I think that was a bit of a sliding doors moment, that Chad Henne leading that 99-yard drive and playing well in that game against Jacksonville and stabilizing the offense and making sure the Chiefs won that football game. I think that the Chiefs now feel that as long as we've got Patrick Mahomes here, we cannot trust the possibility that there might be meaningful snaps that need to be taken on our road to the Super Bowl by somebody with no NFL experience. We need an experienced backup to carry the water for Patrick Mahomes. And now that Chad Henne's retired, why not the guy who was content to carry the water for Tom Brady the last 3 years in Tampa Bay?
Mm-hmm. I mean, he knows his expectations.
Yeah. Is he going to light the world on fire? Is there ever going to be a quarterback controversy of playing Gabbert your number 2? No. But does he know how to play? Does he know how to be a good teammate? Does he know what coming into a game in relief requires and know how to get himself ready, how to get himself prepared for the week leading up to the game so that he's ready to go? I really think there is value in the experience of a backup quarterback if you're a team like the Chiefs and your expectation is we have the quarterback that can win us the Super Bowl, but we don't want to be caught flat-footed if something happens to that quarterback.
Projecting what the roster is going to look like and what the Chiefs' needs are for next year, is backup quarterback the second biggest position battle that we can project going into training camp? I know we're still a long way from training camp, but you know who your starter is. Running back, Isaiah Pacheco is RB1. I guess you have to figure out the backup, but we know the Chiefs will use a committee. Wide receiver, also kind of committee. You don't have a true one, but we kind of know how that group is going to work out, what their roles are. Right tackle, you're going to have to figure out. I imagine it'll be Niang versus a rookie, and maybe Kennard's out there. Who knows? Hard to say. He wasn't really active for more than I think it was one game last year. Defensively, you probably know what the interior is going to look like since you brought back both Wharton and Noddy. Defensive end, it'll be a rotation, but you know at least Karlaftis is going to be there. So maybe edge 2, whether it'll be Dano or whether it'll be a rookie or maybe they bring in a veteran, there's a position battle for you. Linebacker is set, safety is set, and corner to some degree is set too. I think backup quarterback might be your second biggest position battle, which is to a degree a nice place to be. I mean, you don't want to have to decide your entire depth chart just in training camp. I think most teams would like to have a good idea of how things are lining up, but not a bad spot to be if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. And hey, but add a little competition. If Buechele ends up being the better quarterback in camp and during the preseason, fine.
Yeah.
Fine by me.
If you feel like you can trust him, I just think that the Chiefs feel more comfortable with that backup spot in the hands of a veteran, a capable veteran.
And I think that's entirely understandable. That'll take us to the bottom of, or the very end, I should say, of this 3 o'clock hour. 2 more hours to go on 580 Sports Talk. We'll lead off the 4 o'clock hour with a mock draft that both Dan and I are a little bit iffy on, plus Michael Swain and What Is Wrong With You, all coming up next hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock this afternoon, when we will send you to the Royals Radio Network as we get ready for Royals versus Rangers Game 2 tonight. Those two have a day game coming up tomorrow, 1:10 first pitch at the K. So you'll have a shortened version of Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton, followed by a late start, shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk with Brendan and Dan coming up tomorrow here on 580 WIBW. In this 4 o'clock hour, though, of 580 Sports Talk today, Dan and I will break down Dane Brugler's 7-round mock draft for the Kansas City Chiefs, which, again, I respect the effort to do a 7-round mock draft, even though that's his job year-round, to scout players and talk college football and analyze fits for the NFL. That takes a lot of work. That is hard to do. This is not the most thrilling selection for the Kansas City Chiefs, however. So we'll get to that in a minute. We've also got our What Is Wrong With You coming up just after 4:20 today, sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. The memorabilia fraud bowling alley arsonist is our winner from yesterday.
It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
A little bit, but I don't know what part you leave out. And you really got to jam it all in there. There was so much going on. And then Michael Swain is going to join us as well later this hour for the Jayhawk Weekly for this week. A lot to get to in the transfer portal for KU. We are, of course, taking your thoughts on everything we are talking about today. The text line is open, 785-272-9429. Additionally, you can hop into the comment section on YouTube. Our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Would love it if you wanted to go subscribe to our channel. All of our video content, live streams, all that can be found on YouTube at Sports on 580 WIBW. Earlier this week, Dane Brugler from The Athletic put out his latest mock draft. And it's a 7-rounder. Takes a lot of work, a lot of players, 250 some odd players coming off the board in a 7-round mock draft. And I think for me, I've sort of realized this already, that the Chiefs are not in a position where they're probably going to add a whole lot of splash in this year's draft, because you're picking at the end of every round, except the fourth. They're going to pick early in the fourth because of an earlier trade. But there's not going to be a whole lot of superstar prospect power when the Chiefs are picking for the most part. But you can still get guys that you've heard of, guys who are going to make an impact, guys you know, etc.
Maybe you're not going to sell a lot of jerseys with each of your draft picks when you pick here. But the best chance for the Chiefs to pick up a splashy talent would be if they wanted to trade up into the first round. And I don't know that they'll do that. I think they'll be aggressive potentially in the second and third rounds, maybe even in the fourth. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that they're going to, even if I'm not opposed to it. Don't get me wrong. I kind of feel like they are going to kind of lay in the cut and wait for number 31 and let the board come to them rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I think there are a couple scenarios in which you could see something working out. Like if they really love Darnell Wright from Tennessee because he's a ready-made right tackle, he's already got good enough technique, he's got good size, he played against good defensive linemen in college. If they say, no, that is our guy. Our biggest splash is we're going to get the best pure right tackle on the board. We're going to make it happen. And if he slides a little bit, I could see it. I think you can envision a scenario in which the Chiefs say, that's our guy, we're getting him. He fell to pick number 20, right ahead of the Chargers. The Chargers pick at 21. He falls to 20. We know the Chargers need line help. Boom, we're going to go make the move. We're going to go make that happen. I could see that. But I generally agree that with the depth mostly falling on day 2, I think that's probably where the Chiefs are going to do the most wheeling and dealing. So that brings us to Dane Brugler's mock draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. He did it for every team, obviously. And here's who he came away with for the Kansas City Chiefs. In the first round, edge rusher Keon White from Georgia Tech. Fine player. I can understand why some people like him. I can understand why some would say I want something more exciting than that. It's a position of need, but it's not a position of excitement.
We have talked about the Chiefs liking big edge rushers. Here's a guy who fits 6'5", 285.
Yep.
That's a monster. Didn't run at the combine, but did some of the other physical challenges, if you were like talking about like it's guts.
He climbed the aggro crag.
It is the closest thing we have to guts on television.
It really is.
The NFL draft combine.
No Mo, though.
No.
Sadly.
No Mo. 30 bench reps, 34-inch vertical jump, 9 foot 9 inches on the broad jump. Good athlete, not on the young side. He's already 24 years old. Just third team all ACC this last year. And 7.5 sacks, 14 tackles for a loss. I don't know. Like, I feel like there would be better edge talent at 31. I know Keon White's going to be at the draft. That's what's really interesting about this. And Brugler even like nods to this in his article, saying like, wouldn't it be nice if the Chiefs took somebody who was there so they can introduce their first round draft pick to a hometown crowd? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm galaxy braining over here, but maybe that's why Keon White's going to the draft at all, because that was the name. There's 17 players right now who are confirmed to be in attendance, who have been confirmed that they're going to be in attendance in Kansas City for that first night of the NFL draft. And Keon White was the one that made us all go, really, him? Yeah. Like, he's not a nailed on first rounder. Well, maybe the Chiefs are going to take him no matter what. Maybe he is their guy.
Could be. And I mean, the size is a great point that that you made there. Like, Chiefs like big dudes. I think that's a good job by Brugler, knowing the Chiefs' strategy, knowing their tendencies when it comes to the draft. I just don't know about that. I would think that if it was White or something else there, I would almost rather sit back and wait for one of those other day two guys. Like, do you like White that much more than you like Felix Anudike-Uzomah, maybe mid-second round? Do you like him more than you like BJ Ojulari from LSU? I don't know, and I think it's an interesting question. I was trying to bring up the athletic profiles of both players that I just mentioned, Keon White, obviously, who we're talking about, and then BJ Ojulari from LSU. I would almost think maybe it's not a trade back situation, but I would almost think maybe you trade up in the second round and get one of those guys. You've got enough picks. You're not taking all 12 of them. It's fine. It's not wowing me. Same with the Will McDonald pick we talked about the other day. Would it be fine? Would it fill a need? Sure. Is it exciting? No, not really at all. Second round, they go wide receiver. Tyler Scott from Cincinnati. Have you heard, until you read this yesterday, the name Tyler Scott come up much at all?
No, I haven't. And I admit I don't immerse myself in the most, like, I am not the most well-versed on the NFL draft. Like, I certainly am not well-versed to the level that Dane Brugler is, but no, this is not a guy that I think if you are casual or less than casual, an observer of the mock drafts, this is not a name you've seen a whole lot.
No, you certainly have not. And, you know, I know a Packers writer that I follow, not a huge fan of Tyler Scott's game. He is small. He is just a shade under 5'10", 177 pounds. That is small, but he's got good speed. He ran a 4.440 at the combine, good split times. His broad jump, which is like the cheat code measurement. Some GMs just love guys with a good broad jump. Talks about explosion. Elite, truly elite, 9.86 out of 10 on his relative athletic score. Had an even better 40 at his combine, or at his pro day, in fact. So I can understand the athletic profile. I would rather go with someone who I think is a more proven prospect and maybe is a little bit bigger than that. Because if you're going to have someone who's 5'9", I'd want to make sure that he has got incredible other traits. Like Tyreek Hill had incredible hands. Well, that one year that was kind of iffy, but great hands, great leaping ability, good ability to separate with his routes instead of just his pure speed. I don't know that Tyler Scott is that. Again, it's a need, not necessarily my favorite fit. Third round, Jalen Duncan, offensive tackle from Maryland. Again, first 2 days, fills one of those big needs. Now all three of them are covered. I guess, maybe. That, again, not a name that's come up a lot. For a lot of mock drafts we've seen, the third round offensive tackle has been Tyler Steen from Alabama. Now, I don't know how it all fell out here for Dane Brugler, but it'd be fine. But I don't know if I'm thinking this team has to find a starter in the draft at right tackle. I don't know that I trust it at 95. I think it's much more likely you find that guy at the end of the first round.
Lance Zierlein of NFL.com's evaluation of Jalen Duncan says he's a player who might have the best chance to stick in the league as a zone scheme guard. And I don't know that the Chiefs are looking for a tackle who might not be able to play tackle in the NFL in this draft. Like, I think if they're drafting a tackle, especially in the day one or day two, I think they're bringing in a guy they think can play right away.
Yeah, I would sure think so. And, it pops into my head, okay, well, does that sound then like a replacement for Tooney or Smith? Smith's not going anywhere. They're going to extend Trey Smith. I would be floored if they didn't. I think he and Humphrey are both going to get long-term extensions as soon as they can.
I think they're going to be around a long time.
So then, maybe that's a future Joe Tooney replacement. Joe Tooney is also not going anywhere for multiple years. He's still at the height of his game. He's just going to be 31 when this season starts. He's owed a buttload of money. He is owed, his dead cap this year is $34.8 million. Next year, 13. And even in the final year of his contract, it's $6.5 million. So I don't know if you're moving him if he's still playing at that high of a level. So that's at least 2 or 3 years where he wouldn't be playing there. So it's not even like that's a future pick. I don't really know if I get that one. I think with the Chiefs' need at tackle, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to be drafting for depth there. I think now depth is a byproduct of that because either he'll back up Niang or Niang will back him up and you'll have that swing tackle. But I'm with you. I don't know if I want to take a guy who projects at maybe a different position at that part of the draft. Yeah.
A lot of athleticism, but might profile as a guard. Yeah, I don't know. I think if you're drafting a tackle, and I'm not opposed to the Chiefs drafting a tackle later in the draft if there's a project, if there's a Darian Kennard type that they really like. But I think if it's going to be a first 3 days pick, and it bears noting too in this mock draft, there's no trades in this mock draft.
Yeah,
that would be a true sicko undertaking. And Dane Brugler, I assume, has like hobbies and loved ones that might want to see him between like January and the draft. So he didn't go to those lengths. But I do. I think if it's in the first 2 days and the Chiefs take a tackle, I think that he's either a player who's going to start day one and they went and maybe got him in the first round, or he's a player who's going to challenge significantly Lucas Niang at a tackle spot.
Your day 3 picks. I kind of like some of these as flyers or at least as positional guesses. The first pick in the 4th round for the Chiefs, Jaren Hall, quarterback, BYU. Andy Reid loves BYU guys.
Yes, he does.
He is a BYU guy himself.
In fact, that's the allusion that Brugler makes in his column, saying that he has heard the Chiefs really like Jaren Hall.
Jaren Hall, good quarterback at BYU. I know some people said they liked him better than Zach Wilson, not because of the peaks, but because less dumb stuff. And that, hey, the floor is a little bit higher than what Zach Wilson was a first-round pick. He's also old. I believe he's 25 or going to be 25. I believe he's one of the 6 oldest players in the draft.
Yeah, 25.
25 years old. So I assume, and now this was before the Blaine Gabbert news that this was released. So maybe you look at that now and say, okay, I'm going to take Hall out because the Chiefs already have their young project guy and their veteran. I don't know that you bring another young guy into the mix for the 4th round pick. If you already knew Buechele was out, I could see this, though. I could. I don't know if I would do it, but I could understand the logic behind it. The other 4th round pick, I actually like this one a lot. DeMarvion Overshone from Texas, outside linebacker. I kind of like that.
Yeah, more athleticism at the linebacker spot.
Yeah. Never have enough pass rushers. Throw him in there. If it works out, great. If not, he's a special teamer for 4 years and you move on. I would like that at the end of the 4th round. Dejuan Johnson, defensive tackle from Toledo. I'm going to be honest, I do not know who Dejuan Johnson is. I'm sure he's a nice player. I have not gotten into day 3 defensive tackle tape this year. Sure. You need more depth on the defensive line. Fine, go for it. 6th round, Sean Tucker, running back from Syracuse. I'm all about this because, A, he was a pretty solid player at Syracuse, and the Chiefs are probably taking a running back at some point. He also is very wholesome and fun on Twitter.
Good poster.
Yeah, after every game, he would just do like a full 280 characters about, I had 25 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown in this game. I also caught 2 passes. Thought my blocking could have been a little bit better. Great team win, thanks to all the fans. Hashtag pleased, but he replaced the E and the A with a 34, which is his number. Very wholesome.
He was very productive in college. There have been some health concerns that have seen him kind of tumble down the draft board. the Chiefs have struck gold with a player like that in the 6th round in recent memory, Trey Smith. Why not again with Sean Tucker?
We do know the Chiefs love following their tendencies. They know what kinds of guys they love, and they like to take those guys, and that definitely fits in that specific regard. Finishing off these picks from Dane Brugler's Chiefs mock draft. Grant Dubose, wide receiver from Charlotte. Seen his name pop up a bunch. That's a late round flyer, camp body guy. You would have 7 wide receivers at the, fighting for probably 6 spots if you took 2 in the draft. And I'm not opposed to it, but you've also got then the guys we've mentioned on the back half of the roster, Smith-Marsette, the 2 Rosses, Cornell Powell still around. That's a lot of competition. And honestly, I'm talking myself into it. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they should take multiple receivers in this draft. 7th round tight end Blake Whitehart from Wake Forest, and 1 pick later, cornerback Nick Jones from Ball State. That might be my favorite pick in the whole thing. 7th round cornerback from a mid-major school, Brett Veach all over it.
Yeah, no kidding. Like I immediately would be convinced that was a starting caliber player in the NFL if Brett Veach figured that it was a cornerback worth a 7th round pick. Like, oh, this guy's going to start games in the league and probably be fine. Maybe even really good.
Yeah. I would trust Brett Veach making that call more than anyone else making any call. Yeah, I mean, overall, I get it. I get the positional need of this. I would take a tight end way before the 7th round.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's too much talent to not. It's fine. Like, I wouldn't be thrilled, but I wouldn't be crushed.
I couldn't do backflips over that draft.
No.
Like, it's not like, it's like I said, it's not real sexy. It's like there's not real, like, I could see the pick of the first 3 rounds that intrigues me the most of that 3 is probably Tyler Scott, because he's so fast and is so good after the catch. And Chiefs love receivers who are good after the catch. He was a running back in high school, and I think he started his college career as a running back, and they moved into wide receiver, and like he could be a slot guy, and the Chiefs don't have
a true slot.
Not if they're going to play Kadarius Toney on the outside. So I guess some intrigue, with Tyler Scott. The people I have read, like I saw that last night. I read Brugler's mock draft, and I saw that, and I said, am I missing the boat on this? Because Brugler was all about Tyler Scott, loves the player. So I went and go try to find some other stuff, and the consensus, such as you can call it, that is that the people who like Tyler Scott really like Tyler Scott. Think he can be your starting slot receiver and be productive right away. So the people that like him really like him. And if Andy Reid is one of those people, then maybe he'll be a Chief.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have the benefit of the doubt when it comes to scouting, the college scouting department.
Yes, they do.
In terms of, I feel it with that guy. I know him. I've seen that production. I like the traits. There's just not a whole lot of that in this class. As for the local guys, the KU and K-State guys, a handful of them are going in this mock. The KU guys a little bit later. Brugler's got Lonnie Phelps falling to the middle of the 6th round, going to Miami. It's not a bad fit for him or for them. They could use some rotational depth. Earl Bostic in the 7th round to Indianapolis. That sounds about right for Bostic, I think.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about him because he is very athletic. I wonder if a team maybe tries to keep him around for extra lineman kind of packages, like as that flanked out extra tackle on a goal line or something like that. I am a little bit interested to see if Bostic sticks somewhere. The K-State guys, the most notable ones anyway. Anu DK Uzama going 50th, Tampa Bay. I've seen that a lot, like all over the place, because Tampa needs edge rush help. Anu DK Uzama is a good fit. He was in Green Bay visiting the Packers today, in fact.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Julius Brents going 61, so the 3rd to last pick of the 2nd round to Chicago. And then he's got Deuce Vaughn in round 5 to the Seahawks.
That'd be fun.
It'd be very fun.
I might buy a jersey.
You should. Oh, yeah. Get up in Seattle. Absolutely. The most interesting one here is Julius Brents. We have made it clear we're big Brents fans.
Yes.
Big fans of Julius Brents. Todd McShay and Mel Kiper over at ESPN, they did a 3-round alternating picks mock draft. So it was Kiper made the first pick, then McShay, they went back and forth. Todd McShay took Julius Brents in the 1st round to Cincinnati at number 28. And I saw some Bengals fans reacting to that on Twitter and elsewhere, and they said, I mean, I'd be all right with that. Like, I like Brents. I didn't think anyone would have him going this high, but Yeah, sure. Why not? So the fact that he said that makes me feel like maybe there is a little bit of smoke to him going early day 2. I don't think he'll be a day 1 pick, but I think he's a second rounder at this point.
Be an interesting prop. Which K-State player gets drafted first, Brents or Andy DK Uzama?
Ooh. Probably put Felix like minus 150 on that, minus 160, something like that. I don't know. Sounds to me like teams are fascinated with Brents. I think he met with every team or almost every team.
Yeah, he did a lot of those top 30 visits.
As always, you are welcome to give us your thoughts, any specific players, Chiefs fits, anything like that for the NFL draft. Either on the text line, let us know, 785-272-9429, or you can hop into the comment section on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of our channel. We've got to get to a break. Michael Swain joins us later this hour, but first, we've got What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's find our daily winner in What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. Brought to you, as always, by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winner for the week so far, the memorabilia fraud bowling alley arsonist, the gentleman in New Jersey who burned down his competition's bowling alley, the only other alley in town, burned it down with a real heist-like dramatic plan. He went to jail for it. Decided, I want to put a hit on the judges and the prosecutors who put me in there. So to afford the money for the hit, to scrounge up that money, he sold his sports memorabilia. That was all fake. Fake signatures from Derek Jeter and Johnny Bench and LaShawn McCoy, among others. Cards, jerseys, all of it, fake signatures. We don't know who he was trying to take out, but he definitely would not have been able to afford it, and he's going back to jail. That's our current winner. Dan, what's your story for today?
So we are keeping it local today, and we go to Chapman, Kansas, where a high school teacher left a student behind on a field trip.
Oh.
A freshman at Chapman High School was attending a choir competition Saturday, about 30 minutes away at Manhattan High School, and the bus left without her. Mom is not happy, telling WIBW television. I actually had to call Manhattan Police Department to go over there and check on her to make sure that she'd stay safe and warm because it was chilly. And I did not get any kind of notification until after she'd called me. I'd passed the bus that she was supposed to be on as I'm going to get her. The school was not aware it had left the young lady behind until the mother had already left to go pick her up herself. That's tough.
That's awful.
Yeah, so it's been a while since I've been on a field trip because it's been a while since I've been a student, but you always have your buddy, right? You have the buddy system.
Yeah.
Hey, is your buddy here? If your buddy is not with you, your seatmate on the bus is not there with you, speak up, say something. Where's your buddy? And hey, if you've got an odd number, then your chaperone is that student's buddy. This is unfathomable failure of oversight by everybody involved there.
Yeah, it really is.
Leave a person.
A child.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's awful.
The mother says she does not plan to let either of her two children take part in any field trips for the foreseeable future. So see, now your poor job of chaperoning has ruined field trips for an innocent bystander, a child who wasn't even involved in this.
That sucks.
Hey, come on. I want to go to the chocolate factory.
I want to go to the zoo.
Right.
No,
you're not going to let me go to the zoo now?
Yeah, Barbara makes
What did I do?
She makes a great point on YouTube. How do you not do a head count?
Right?
We got 20 kids in the class. Only 19 here. Well, we'll round up. We're good. No.
Yeah, what is it?
No.
You lose count 2, 4, 6. Yeah, close enough. Hey, we're good.
Yeah.
Bus looks full to me.
Is that 4 over there or 3? Yeah, well, I'm sure we're fine. Come on, man. That's awful. That is awful. I've also got some kids getting into trouble in my What Is Wrong With You for today. Although this time it was their own fault. We are headed to Carowinds Amusement Park. I've actually been to the Carowinds roller coaster and amusement park. It straddles the border of South and North Carolina.
Huh.
And they actually have one roller coaster. If you ride it on the right-hand side, you're in North Carolina. If you ride in the cars on the left side, you're in South Carolina. It's very cool. Well, Carowinds reported this week that a 13-year-old boy got stuck in a claw machine. The teen was attempting to steal from the claw machine located in the Thrill Zone at Carowinds on Sunday before 2 p.m. So this is broad daylight. The boy climbed into the machine and was unable to exit, prompting a response from the Carowinds medical response team. The child eventually exited the machine shortly after and was given first aid before returning to his guardian. The staff said, quote, "The safety and security of our guests and associates is our top priority. It is unclear if he faced any further action." Got stuck in a claw machine. And pretty simple. Just, I don't know, he wanted to steal a stuffed rabbit or something. I don't know. It was like, oh, yeah, give me that basketball, that mini basketball that's in there. Let me go steal it.
I remember on 8th grade day at Elitch Gardens, Six Flags Elitch Gardens in Denver, where I grew up. They would have one day that was just the 8th graders from the school district I went to.
Wow.
We just took over the park basically and just had a day toward the end of the year, right? Kind of a celebration that you're about to graduate 8th grade. And I remember one of my friends took they had a basket of prizes. If they didn't guess your weight right, you got a prize. And the basket was just kind of sitting there. And I wouldn't say one of my friends, but one of the guys who was in the group, orbiting the group that I was part of, he snagged an inflatable bat out of there, just kind of pocketed it and walked away. Not cool to steal generally. I'm kind of down on stealing.
Same.
Just as a broad concept, but at the very least, my guy didn't crawl into a claw machine to try and take the inflatable Stone Cold Steve Austin bat or whatever it was.
Just hopping in, just chilling in there. Yeah, that's really dumb. That's really dumb.
It's so funny.
I'm going to give the nod to the chaperone who left a student behind, though. This is a 13-year-old being a dumb 13-year-old. That is an adult.
Yeah.
Leaving a child.
Surely there are protocols in place. Surely this is not the first time that there's ever been a field trip at that school. Surely this is not the first time that adult has ever chaperoned a field trip, although I guess it could be. But still, doesn't common sense enter the equation at some point where if I go somewhere with a group of people, I'm leaving with the same group unless one of that group comes up to me and says, I'm staying, or I've got alternate transportation. Like, how do you leave somebody behind? That's tough.
That sucks. Yeah, that's the winner for today. But does it beat our fake Tony Soprano?
No. Wannabe Tony.
That might be a little more of an easy name to go with, the wannabe Tony Soprano, the bowling alley arsonist.
Burned his competition down. He was going to sell his fake Jim Bench Cincinnati Reds jersey.
No, that says Jam Tommy.
Got this Jeter jersey. Yeah, why does it say Yankers on the front?
Yankers. Oh, my God. That is our winner once again today. The wannabe Tony Soprano, the memorabilia fraud, bowling alley arsonist in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Michael Swain joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. He joins us every Tuesday, bottom of the hour, 4 o'clock hour, I should specify, for Jayhawk Weekly. You can also go find Michael on Twitter at mswain247, along with his great work at Fog.net. Michael, have you been able to catch your breath at all? You've got some KU football scoops now over at Fog.net. Obviously, the basketball transfer portal has been busy as all get out. Have you gotten a minute to sleep or at least catch your breath?
No. What's John Rothstein say? You know, we sleep in May. Like, that's kind of where I'm at right now. And honestly, I might sleep in for 1 week in July. And that might be it before the whole cycle starts again. But busy times, and it's definitely exciting and fun to cover.
Well, there is an absolute metric ton to get to, so we'll get through as much of it as we can. Let's start with the biggest name in the transfer portal. We haven't heard a lot recently about Hunter Dickinson. We know KU's interested. I think anyone who follows Kansas basketball can understand why Bill Self would be targeting a guy who has the potential to give you 20-10, or at least something close to that in Big 12 play. Has there been any movement on the Hunter Dickinson front?
Yeah, I think we're kind of now in the point where, to some degree, the movement's going to happen later because he's in the visit process now. Where over the weekend, like this past weekend, he visited Georgetown in Maryland when he was back in the DMV area, and then he's going to be in Lawrence starting on Thursday for his official visit to KU, and then it's kind of still TBD on where he's going to go after that. You know, Kentucky is trying to make a play with Oscar Tshiebwe, likely not returning to Kentucky. They're trying to make a play there. Arkansas is trying to get in. And so I think overall you're kind of seeing a lot of schools now really trying to get in the mix. But what we know for right now is, you know, Maryland, Georgetown are two schools he took unofficial visits to, so just one day. And then he's going to take his first official visit to Kansas this week. KU is in a really good spot with him. Obviously, I think KU, with the track record Bill Self has, the number of minutes that could be available to someone of Dickinson's quality, right, at the 5 position, considering the fact that Ernest Udeh and Zuby Ejiofor showed flashes as freshmen, but maybe aren't known quantities yet. And then you've got someone in KJ Adams, who I think the KU staff wants to try out on the wing next year. So KU's got a lot they can recruit off of here. And so it's just going to be a question of how well they can do it on the visit. And then after that's going to come down to what other schools does Dickinson decide to visit, because he's not on any sort of timeline here. He can take as long as he wants because KU will wait around, Maryland will wait around, Georgetown's going to wait around. All these schools are willing to wait around for him. So he can kind of take his time if he wants, or he can go quick if he wants. That's the pleasure of being the number one player in the portal.
KU is going to be good next year regardless because it's Kansas and they're coached by Bill Self and they've got enough good players. And at some point, players are going to commit, whether it's the number one portal targets or not. Guys are going to commit. KU is going to be fine. But let's say, KU hits on some of their wing and guard targets through the portal, and you've still got DeJuan Harris at the point. Do you think KU would be comfortable running it back with a 5-man rotation of KJ Adams, Ernest Udeh, Zuby Ejiofor? I know you've written plenty of times before and recently too that KU would love to move KJ Adams somewhere else, not have him play at the 5. That was really out of necessity this past year. But do you think KU would be okay if that was their best option to say, all right, let's just do it again? We've got enough pieces. We should still be better.
Yeah, if it comes down to it and KU misses out on Hunter Dickinson and then they go out and get a guard and 2 wings, I think at the end of the day, they'd go into the season saying, we're going to try Ernest starting at center and have Zuby be kind of a straight backup. And then if you want to go small against teams with a 6'8", 6'9" center, right, you can play KJ there and feel okay. I think that they could do that, and it's so hard to predict how this could play out. But I think there's obviously a possibility that could happen because Hunter Dickinson to Kansas is not 100% locked. So obviously there's going to be a possibility that KU misses out, and if there's not a big man that they like, then yeah, I think that is something that could happen. And if that does happen, I think you'll see the team maybe try and prioritize a bigger wings to where you've got a little bit more depth there at that kind of 3-4 spot where Jalen Wilson and Kevin McCullough played this past season, so that if it does come down to it and KJ does have to play a lot of minutes 5, well, all of a sudden you're not scrambling for who's going to play the 4. And, that's why I think someone like Harrison Ingram really fits, because he's someone that can kind of play the 3. If you've got a 4-man that can shoot, or a 5-man that can shoot, a 4-man that can't, or you can also play the 4 for you. And I think give you some really good size there with a wingspan that's about 7 feet, I want to say, if I remember right from the combine. So that's why he's such a priority target for KU, because he kind of fits that role of what Bill Self, I think, wants maybe in that 4-man. Maybe not the athleticism, but I think just the skill set.
Our guest is Michael Swain of Fog.net, 24/7 Sports. He joins us every week at this time for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Again, you can check out Michael's essential work covering the Jayhawks at Fog.net, and you can find him on Twitter at mswain247. Another big target in the transfer portal for KU basketball, Nick Timberlake out of Towson, who looks set to choose his school this week. He's between KU, North Carolina, and UConn. So some heavy hitters, including the defending national champs, lining up to try and get this 6'4" guard on their team. What could he bring to Kansas, and how real are the chances that the Jayhawks could land Timberlake?
Yeah, well, if he commits to KU, I think they're getting a legitimate 3-point shooter. He shot a high volume and made over 40% of his threes And so he's the type of guy that I think would be able to provide you some of that floor spacing that Grady Dick did this past year. I think for me, you look at maybe his ability to create off the dribble as well. He obviously doesn't have the same size that Grady does, right? He's 6'4" versus Grady being 6'7", but he would offer that shooting. And I think there's probably reason to believe from KU's perspective that they think he could probably play alongside DeJuan Harris, alongside Omargo Jackson, and maybe even with both of those two guys on the floor as well. So where you maybe have a kind of a three-guard combo in that lineup. So I think that's something that could be realistic. Obviously, KU, in terms of their chances, earlier today I heard that maybe he hasn't decided yet, come to an official decision. So if you see anything out there about an official decision, I don't know if that's necessarily true at this point. I think it's pretty close. If you made me pick right now, I probably would say UConn, closer to home, going to have a lot of minutes available for him, but KU's not out of this yet. And I think that there's still probably there was some confidence on KU's end of things, even when he was on his visit at UConn. So this is one that's not over yet. And it sounds like a decision or an announcement at least will come probably later this week rather than maybe over the next 24 hours.
Man, that's the kind of insight you only get on Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, of course, covers KU over at fog.net and 24/7 Sports. The other name that has been circled around for, specifically with KU and some real heat between their connection, Harrison Ingram. That was a mess of a sentence, but there's been a lot of smoke about Harrison Ingram for the last week or so. His name has come up with KU a lot, really, over the last month. Is there any sort of movement there as well? Are we getting closer to possibly a commitment, or is that another player that is just going to take his time?
Well, if you want to talk about movement, I don't know if there's any better example of that than whatever yesterday was with Harrison Ingram. So he was supposed to be on campus starting today for his official visit, but Bill Self had a speaking engagement down in Hutchinson earlier today. And so as a result, the visit got moved around. And so he's likely going to be on campus, from what I'm hearing, early next week is the date that it sounds like they're targeting. I believe Harrison is going to go visit either North Carolina and maybe Kentucky in addition to that, but it does sound like Carolina will get an official visit. I do have a crystal ball pick for KU to land Ingram. I still feel pretty good about that, even if he does take that visit to Carolina. I think KU checks a lot of boxes for him and what he could be looking for. So he's someone that KU fans definitely should keep an eye on, and plenty of movement going on there. And we'll see what happens coming off that North Carolina official visit. And of course, you got to add the caveat of if he makes it there, because in the world of the transfer portal, you really don't know until the guy shows up on campus. So right now, it seems like that's going to be a kind of a Carolina KU race with maybe Kentucky hovering around there, maybe Xavier too.
Let's get to a new name, Michael, that popped up in the portal this week. And I think, again, a lot of KU fans, whether they're, reading message boards or whether they're reading a lot of writing or they just see it on Twitter, saw Jalen Tyson at Texas Tech pop up and immediately said, yes, that is a player that would fit at KU so well. He can shoot. He can score. He's got Big 12 experience. He's got the length you want defensively. Now, he is or will be a two-time transfer, which makes things very difficult now with the NCAA's new guidelines. How real is the interest, if there is any, between Kansas and Tyson? And does that feel like the kind of, almost like McCullough last year, another Tech guy, where Bill Self looks and just says, yes, we have to have that piece?
Yeah. Okay, a lot to get to there. So I think in terms of the interest, right, I think you're still probably in preliminary stages. I texted a little bit with Jalen earlier this morning, and he's heard from KU, and I think it's now kind of the decision of, all right, well, what is that next step, right? Is it setting up a Zoom call where he talks to the whole staff, or do they just go straight into setting up a visit? I think that's kind of going to be what's decided here next. In terms of what he'd bring, I mean, you look at the numbers. I pulled it up right here. Like, it's basically Grady Dick's numbers last year, just lower volume. They both shot the three the same amount. 40.3% for Grady, 40.2% for Tyson. They're both 6'7" on the slender side. Tyson is a better rebounder, 6.1 rebounds to Grady's 5.1. Same number of assist rate, same number of steals. Basically, Tyson is just a little bit better at shooting from inside the arc than Grady was. And outside of that, they're pretty much similar players. So you want to talk about if KU misses on Hunter Dickinson, I think this is the type of person that KU could go and get that would pair with Harrison Ingram, where they're both kind of longer, bigger wings, but one of them can shoot and the other one can really handle the ball. A lot like what you saw last year, Grady Dick being the shooter and Kevin McCullough being a guy that maybe can handle the ball a little bit, bring some versatility as a team. So I think the interest for KU right now, it seems like it's there. Obviously, with the portal, you never know where things can go and how quickly it can change. But I think for this point in time, that's going to be a name that should definitely be kept an eye on, and we'll kind of just have to see where the things pivot and where the next move is there.
Have you been able to get a feel, Michael, at all for what the actual waiver process is going to look like for two-time transfers? I know a couple now have been tied to KU, talking about Tyson right there. Primo Spears from Georgetown is another name that's popped up. I don't know if KU's interested, but Raekwon Battle, who we saw have a great game against K-State in the tournament for Montana State, he would be a multi-time transfer as well. And I know they're cracking down on it, and now they say that, a coaching change is not alone a reason to get a waiver, which sounds ridiculous to me. That sounds like the perfect reason to get a waiver. Is there any sort of understanding about what the rulings are actually going to be, or is this just classic NCAA? They're going to shoot from the hip, act now, ask questions later?
Yeah, it's a lot of that. Like, there's so much murky stuff going on here with what actually is going to be required for some of this stuff. John Rothstein had a tweet that kind of was the memo that was sent to teams. And basically it lists kind of your reasons. All right, if you're going to get a waiver to play as a two-time transfer, basically you have to have a physical or mental health issue. And I believe there's some stipulations with the mental health stuff where maybe you actually have to be going closer to home. Some people have interpreted it that way, so we'll see. There's also kind of a physical sexual assault discrimination based kind of part in there where if you suffered that, you can get a waiver. And then there's kind of basically medical diagnosis as well. So, I mean, you're talking about some serious circumstances for a player to be able to get a waiver. Like, at face value, I get it, right? You don't want players being able to just transfer willy-nilly every year. Okay, sure. But if your coach gets fired, like, what are we doing here? You shouldn't be bound to a random coach that didn't recruit you, that you don't know if you fit, and be stuck there and be basically forced to be at a school where maybe you don't want to be at. So I just think it's ridiculous. And it's just another example of, like you said, the NCAA shoot from the hip and just deciding, hey, this is what we're doing now. And this is the rule, and it impacts players. Right. And that's the bummer, that a lot of guys are going to have either their lists be limited or have certain things not be in the picture for them that maybe would have been, just because of a random memo that got sent to NCAA teams maybe a month ago. So it's just pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, great organization we got here with the NCAA. Real well organized. Really has the the thoughts about the student athletes front of their mind. Final thing I've got for you, Michael, and we're a little short on time, so we got about a minute here. A number of guys for KU football have entered the portal over the last couple of days since the spring game, and now with the portal opening back up. We talked about Ethan Vasco a couple weeks ago. That was obviously a surprise. Over the last week, any of the other guys who have left a surprise, or is that just typical roster inertia?
Well, I think a part of it's just a lot of walk-ons. I think there have only been 3 scholarship players who have entered the portal so far, and that's out of whatever the 80 KU had. So a lot of this is actually walk-on movement, where KU had too many players for spring practice, right? Lance Lappold talked about this, where they had the biggest roster number for spring practice, and you have to be at, I believe the number is 105 for a season. Well, I think KU is north of that during spring practice, and obviously I think they're going to bring in a bunch of walk-ons as well that I think the staff is pretty high on. So overall, there's been a lot of walk-on movement, so not a lot to read into so far. I think Ethan Vasco is probably the biggest name, and we talked about that last week. So it's been pretty smooth sailing so far in terms of the opening of the portal for football.
For both the best coverage of KU basketball and KU football, head to fog.net. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. That's where you can find the work of Michael Swain, who covers KU for fog.net. You can find him on Twitter as well, at mswain247, and he joins us every Tuesday, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, we appreciate the time, appreciate the phenomenal effort covering everything KU, and we'll talk to you next week. Hopefully we'll have a little more clarity by then.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Talk to you then.
That is Michael Swain from fog.net. Great stuff. As always, talking all things Kansas Jayhawks. This is both fun and also, if you're a fan and you have a real attachment to this, really nerve-wracking. It's like, what if you don't get these good players? What if you're expecting to get like real contributors and you end up with like me playing the 3? Would not go very well. We have to take a commercial break and a break for our national and local news. We'll lead off the 5 o'clock hour with our headlines next on 580 Sports Talk. show on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero. We are here with you until 6 o'clock and the start of pregame coverage for Royals baseball. Royals-Rangers Game 2 coming up this evening. Game 3 tomorrow afternoon. We're taking your thoughts on anything we're talking about on the show throughout the show on our text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. You can also jump in and contribute on YouTube. The name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Got a spirited conversation, or really just a reference fest going on in the YouTube comments right now from favorite comedies, specifically Spaceballs and Airplane, two of my all-time favorites. So I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah, I love Airplane.
Such a good movie. Every single part of it is so good.
Tell your old man to try dragging Walton and Lanier up and down the court 40 minutes a night.
You got Clarence. Roger. What's our vector, Victor? Just incredibly funny. I'm going to go watch. Abby doesn't think it's funny. She just doesn't do anything for her. And fine, I'll watch it on my own. I might go watch it tonight, in fact, just to do it.
Really good movie.
Truly, truly great. And it holds up. The technology parts of it don't, but that movie is 43 years old now.
Some of the jokes I'm not sure you could do today. But that is the case for every comedy made before 2009.
Yeah, that's probably true. That is probably true. What's her name though? Not the stewardess herself. Well, no, you'd say flight attendant, but stewardess. I speak jive. That scene. You probably couldn't do that now, but in retrospect, that's pretty funny.
I actually think that one you might be able to handle.
Maybe you could.
Might be able to do that one.
There are some, maybe not so much. It is a great film, though, no doubt about that.
The pamphlet, the big book of Jewish sports legends.
Yeah, take this leaflet, famous Jewish sports legends. Oh, that is too funny. Mel Brooks made the movie, so he could get away with that joke. All right, coming up in this hour, we'll preview Royals-Rangers. We will get to your texts and your comments as well. And we've got a lot of 580 Sports Talk headlines to get to, so let's jump right on into those. First one, biggest local one of the day. K-State has a 5-star commitment on the hardwood. David Castillo, a top 35 player in the class of 2024, has committed to Jerome Tang and Kansas State basketball. So again, this is the class of 24. It will be a little bit until we see him. He's got another year of high school ball to go, but he is one of the first of the top 30 players in the 24 class. I believe he's one of the first 6 to actually make a commitment. So he's getting way out ahead of it. His other finalists were Oklahoma State and KU. So this is a Big 12 caliber player. A lot of good programs were in on him. Good shooter, good scorer. He gave a quote to On3 where he said, I think I'm an all-around point guard. I like to play fast. I like to distribute. I think I can score at all 3 levels. Well, I think K-State would happily take a player like that. No doubt about that. 6'1". We were talking about this off the air, and you asked if he was more of a combo guard or a point. I said he's a point. He calls himself a point guard. The recruiting services all call him a combo guard, though. I guess think he's he's got either more off-ball skills than we've given him credit for, or maybe is just more of a natural, not having the ball in his hands at all times. Goodness gracious.
Combo guard just might mean a point guard, but they're good at shooting.
That's also possible.
That could be the distinction. I'm not in charge of the recruiting services, but that's what it feels like to me. A combo guard is yes, this is a point guard, but also you have to actually guard them.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Big deal get for K-State. Something interesting, too, about Castillo. He was one of 4 guards that apparently worked out with Damian Lillard last summer.
Interesting.
Damian Lillard invited 4 high school point guards to come and basically be part of a camp. It sounded like he was running, and David Castillo was one of those.
You know someone else who famously worked out with Damian Lillard and then became a consensus All-American and the Big 12 Player of the Year? Ochai Agbaji.
That's right.
CJ Moore wrote about that before the 21-22 season, about Ochai going and working out with Dame Lillard. Was, hey, are you wondering why he's so good now? Look at this. That's pretty interesting. That's a good note there. I didn't know that. Yeah, good player, plays for Blake Griffin's AAU program, national AAU champion. He's played on Team USA and won gold medals twice for both under 16 and under 17 events in the last, 3 years now, or 2 years. That's a good get. That's a really nice piece. I know he at one point was considered maybe a top 10 or 15 player in the class, slipped a little bit. It doesn't matter. You're in the top 25 to 45 range, you're a really darn good player and you can play anywhere. So that's an awesome get for K-State. Great get for Tang. Now, since that is the first commitment for the class of 24, K-State still has plenty of scholarships to fill for that class. There have been some rumors that maybe one of the bench warmers from this past year is going to transfer out who had some eligibility left. That might open up another one, but you're only going to have 1 or 2 seniors around that year. You're going to end up with a bunch of young guys. The class that's coming in this year that has a lot of hype. Look at Michaela Britch, Day-Day Ames, that group. They're just 2 of the 4. Things are looking up for K-State, but this will not affect their 23-24 season, which means they still got to get some portal commits.
Yeah,
that is of paramount importance right now.
Yeah,
for
they got some 2023 business to take care of for sure, but starting their 2024 business off with a bang with this player. Jerome Tang celebrated the news by going on to Twitter and tweeting, I believe, a reaction GIF of himself.
Yes,
with the caption, "Dudes."
You can tell sometimes when a commitment goes the way everyone expects it to goes. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go take a lap during this next headline. When it goes the way everyone expects it to go, because every recruiting and like basketball analysis website and all the local websites all have content ready to publish immediately. I think KSNT published something, Go Power Kid had multiple things, National 24/7 had stuff. This was pretty much a done deal over the last weekend. It's awesome for Jerome Tang. He's the highest rated recruit for K-State in a long time. What was it, 2011 you said earlier?
In a decade, yeah.
Yeah, that's
according
awesome.
to 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, great get for K-State.
Trying to remember who the last, probably, what was his name? Bill Walker?
It probably was Bill Walker, yeah. I can pull it up here. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about players on that kind of caliber, you're feeling pretty good if you're Jerome Tang and you're K-State. That
might have been too early. Bill Walker's too early.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure who it would have been then. But either way, best in a long time. That's really good to see for K-State.
So we'll keep it on the college basketball front with our continuing 580 Sports headlines here. A couple of other recruiting/transfer portal/NBA draft notes. 2 prominent college stars declaring for the NBA draft, but looking to maintain their eligibility. One of them, the National Player of the Year, Zach Edey from Purdue, says he'll test the draft waters, but look to maintain his eligibility. It would not shock me if he comes back to school.
Where are you drafting him if he enters the draft?
He's not a first-round pick. I haven't read every NBA draft mock on the internet, but I have yet to encounter one that has him in the first round. And if he's not a first-round pick, then
he'll make more money with NIL.
Probably NIL is the route to go for one more year at Purdue, right?
I would imagine businesses all over Indianapolis would want a piece of that. Anything in Northwest Indiana, or honestly, the far eastern extremes of Illinois probably want a piece of that. Nationally, I'm sure he'll get some attention. He's 7 feet tall with personality. Why wouldn't he? I think he would make more money coming back, which is, 5 years ago, I would say, dude, go to the NBA. There's nothing more you can prove or probably improve on in your game that's going to change what your future looks like. Go to the NBA, make money, be a pro, don't take classes anymore. That's the smart thing. But with NIL, I think that changes, and he might make more sticking around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the National Player of the Year. As long as he doesn't end up having a Shibwe year where he still puts up numbers, but it becomes like, oh, so you really can't play defense, huh?
Yeah, your weaknesses are now much more exposed, potentially. That's the risk you run.
Yeah.
But those guards around him will be a year older and probably a year better. And
for their sake, I hope so.
Yeah, maybe Purdue makes a real run at it next year instead of losing to a 16 seed. People don't forget.
Yeah, but that's good for college basketball.
Yeah, if he comes back, for sure.
And I mean, we talked at length during the Final Four about star power and how the stars of college basketball are on the women's side.
Mm-hmm.
And those stars stick around. Caitlin Clark could stick around for multiple more years at Iowa. At least 1, possibly 2 more years. You've got Angel Reese, who's around for multiple years. I mean, all these players. Aaliyah Boston was a 4-year player.
Yeah.
Ayoka Lee is going to be back for another year.
Yeah, you have to play at least 3.
So for the men's side, while you may not have the one and done type of stars quite as much anymore because of a number of things, guys go overseas now, or they go to the G League or Overtime Elite or whatever, you can get these guys who might not be superstars, but like college basketball fans know Zach Edey. Zach Edey is, for college basketball as much of a household name as you're going to get going into next year.
It's not been that long since he committed to playing basketball full time.
Right.
So there's still the potential he could get better. And maybe that happens in the college game next year, which would be great for college basketball if indeed that ends up being the case. So Zach Edey is going to the draft, maintaining his eligibility. So is Andre Jackson out of UConn, 6'6" guard who was really outstanding defender for UConn, probably their best perimeter defender. Wasn't a big scorer for them, but definitely the kind of guy who feels like a switchable 3-and-D kind of guard in the NBA.
Danny Hurley called him the best leader he's ever been around, which, you're on this hot run with your team. It's your own coach saying it. Take it with a grain of salt, but that's still pretty high praise.
Yeah. A couple other college hoops notes. Big get in the transfer portal for Baylor as former VCU guard Jaden Nunn has committed to play for Scott Drew and the Bears. Chose Baylor over Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, and Penn State. Nunn was named the A-10 all-rookie team this past season, averaged 9 points, a steal and a half per game, shot 40% from 3-point range. Speaking of switchable 3-and-D guards, 6'4" and explosive and an excellent defender. And he sounds like a Baylor guard to me. And he will be a Baylor guard moving forward. Also, former Notre Dame head coach Mike Bray, who had been rumored to want to stay in the coaching game. At one point was heavily rumored he was going to take the South Florida job.
Yeah.
Well, we know what his next job is going to be. As an assistant coach in the NBA, he's joining Quinn Snyder's staff with the Atlanta Hawks. Quinn Snyder, of course, like Mike Bray, former Duke assistant. And Mike Bray is going to join that staff and be a part of the NBA coaching family.
Do you think this is more... how do I want to phrase this? Is this sort of just a mentorship thing for Mike Bray? I'll stick around, and if you need me, I'm here. Or how into it is he going to be? Is he had this lifelong dream of being an NBA coach or something?
Or does he just want to vibe with his buddy Quinn?
I feel like that might be it. Well, vibing with Quinn Snyder might mean a whole lot of things.
That could mean a whole lot of things.
I don't know if Mike Bray's into that. Maybe.
We've heard some stories about what vibing with Quinn Snyder might entail.
There's a lot more action in Atlanta than in South Bend. I know that much for sure.
That is a fact. We have a texter, by the way, from the 620. Suggests the name we're looking for as far as the last K-State recruit this highly regarded was Wally Judge in 2009.
Maybe.
The suggestion from the article I saw was that there was one maybe more recent. But Wally Judge was big time. 5 stars,
oh yeah,
McDonald's All-American in 99. Bill Walker was too, but I think he was 08 or 07, part of that recruiting class. So Wally Judge would have been more recent than that.
Yeah, maybe it's been over a decade. I don't know. But
good shout from the 620. Appreciate it.
That's a good call. A good pull. Continuing on with today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. How about this? Great news from the NFL today. Damar Hamlin spoke today. His team spoke today. He has been cleared to resume his football career. How about that? Obviously, the biggest sports story of the year this year. It happened on January 2nd. It is the biggest sports story of the year because we nearly saw an NFL player die on the field, and without the incredible work of the training staffs and the medical professionals at Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati, in all likelihood, Damar Hamlin does die on the field. But he was revived. He's been fully cleared to resume football activities. He said today, quote, "This was a life-changing event, but it's not the end of my story. I'm here to announce that I plan on making a comeback to the NFL." And he even got to work out with the team today. That's incredible. And honest to God, whether or not he ever plays again, the fact that he is living to this point a normal life again is incredible. And I don't know how you couldn't be happy and thrilled for him. He did mention, we do know officially what happened. It is commotio cordis, which is, according to Damar, he said this during his media time today, it's the leading cause of death in young athletes across all sports. That's something that I personally will be taking a step in to make a change. Awesome.
That was what was speculated heavily around the time that Hamlin was injured, was what it was. And it ended up being diagnosed that way. But no, what a wonderful ending potentially to the story. And it's not over yet. The sight of him on an NFL field again is going to be a very emotional one.
Oh, yeah.
That first preseason game that he plays, that first time he takes the field again is going to be Very, very special. One of the scariest things that we've seen, that we have witnessed in sports. I mean,
Yeah.
never mind just the NFL, in sports, to see a player who really did seem like there was question, would he survive the night?
Mm-hmm.
And now he's going to be able to play football again. And it's a great ending to that story, no doubt about it.
And when you consider, too, just to add on to that, I mean, this is Monday Night Football. It is the most popular sport in the country. It was a huge game. And we talked all show that Monday about it. Like the whole 5 o'clock hour, I was telling you how excited I was for Bills versus Bengals that night. It was a massive NFL game. And it came out right after the Rose Bowl. And I remember thinking the whole world saw this. Like, this sport is wildly popular in Europe and South America now, too. Everybody in the U.S. is watching it. We know what kind of ratings NFL games in primetime do during the week. Like, the whole world saw this guy die, effectively, and be revived. I mean, that's horrifying. That's a nation-scarring moment kind of thing, like a flashpoint cultural moment. And the fact that we're at a point where he can resume playing football, that's just incredible. Couldn't be more happy for him.
Let's get into our postseason roundup segment on 580 Sports Talk. We need like a cowboy, like,
Need at least a yeehaw.
Do we have a yeehaw?
I don't think we do.
I'm gonna dig real quick and see if there might be we got a lot of sound effects. Would love well, we do have this. Like, this I think is functional. So our playoff roundup.
Playoffs?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
There we go. That's what we're talking.
Playoffs?
Yep. It's the NBA and NHL playoff roundup for you. Last night, NHL playoffs got underway. The higher seeds won both of their games out in the Eastern Conference. The Boston Bruins defeated the Florida Panthers. Carolina Hurricanes took down the New York Islanders. Out west, it was a late night overtime in both games, and the road teams were winners. The Los Angeles Kings with an upset win in overtime over the Edmonton Oilers, while the Minnesota Wild needed 2 overtimes to take down the Dallas Stars to take a 1-0 lead in that series. The other playoff series, the other 4 open tonight. Out east, the New York Rangers host the New Jersey Devils. The Tampa Bay Lightning play host to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Out west, it's the Vegas Golden Knights hosting the Winnipeg Jets, and the Colorado Avalanche, the defending Stanley Cup champions, hosting the Seattle Kraken, who are in the postseason for the first time in just their second season of existence.
Wow, that's the first Kraken playoff appearance in Vegas Golden Knights history. Legendary. I did watch some of the hockey last night. A lot of overtime. Who ended up winning last night? It was
the Kings of the Wild.
Okay, it was the Kings one. Yeah, you just mentioned that. Sorry, I blacked out there. The Oilers whizzed that one down their leg.
Yeah, they did.
That was brutal. And they could have won, but they had the goal disallowed in the extra session. So they really whizzed that one away. Oiler fans not happy after the game. And that was the one overtime game I did watch. It was exciting, though. Scored a goal with 17 seconds left, did you say?
Yeah, there was late goal by Anze Kopitar to tie the game in regulation, and then they win it in the overtime session. A little heat on a team that a lot of people think will win the West this year.
Yeah.
Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. So that's your NHL playoff roundup. Last night in the NBA, the Philadelphia 76ers and Sacramento Kings each took 2-0 series leads.
Light the beam.
The beam was lit. And so was the crowd at the Golden One Center in Sacramento. That was another thrilling basketball game. The Kings outlasting the Warriors. A game marred by an ejection to Warriors big man Draymond Green, who stepped on Domantas Sabonis' chest when the two got tangled up underneath the basket with about 7 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. The Warriors are not expecting that Green will be suspended. He was ejected from the game. A flagrant 2 foul was assessed, which was an automatic ejection. Sabonis was also issued a technical foul for his role. He grabbed Draymond's foot to the point where when I watched it live, it didn't look all that untoward. And then when you watch like the full replay from the slow-mo from the main angle, that courtside angle, the side to side, I watched it and I thought that just looks like Draymond like stumbled. And then you see it from like the court level view from right behind, and oh yeah, Draymond stepped on that dude. Like he definitely
stomped him.
Yeah, he did like Christian Laettner did to Aminu Timberlake in the 1992 NCAA tournament. He stepped right on him.
Stomped a mud hole in him.
He walked a mud hole in him. So The Kings up 2-0 in that series. First time since 2007 that the Warriors have faced a 2-0 series deficit in any playoff series. So it's never happened to Steph and Clay and Draymond, that particular group of Warriors. Sixers are up 2-0 on the Nets. They were in full command of that game. 33 points for Tyrese Maxey as the Sixers cruise. Tonight, game twos, 3 of them. You got the Hawks and the Celtics. That is your NBA TV game tonight. The number 2 seed Celtics taking on the number 7 seed Hawks. The New York Knicks at the Cleveland Cavaliers as well in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks and the Celtics each holding 1-0 series leads. 1 game out west tonight. The Suns and the Clippers. Phoenix trying to even that series at home.
Real quick, did anyone ask Steve Kerr if Draymond broke the code last night, or is that only a thing when other teams do it? I like Steph Curry. I like Klay Thompson. I really enjoy watching them, have for a long time. They really do have a penchant for making themselves hateable. Not those two in particular, but like Steve Kerr being the biggest hypocrite on earth, at least when it comes to basketball-related stuff. Draymond doing what he always does, kicking people in the crotch and stepping on people and whatnot. They really do make themselves hateable. Jordan Poole, I don't really find all that likable. Just not... I've discovered in the last couple of days, there's a lot of people in the NBA I just don't like for whatever reason.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys I don't really love in the league either. I don't mind Curry. I might be in the minority. I don't think I'm in the minority. There's a vocal minority of people who do not like Steph Curry for a variety of reasons. My dad's not a big Steph Curry fan. I don't mind Steph Curry. I enjoy watching him play. And his antics, such as they are to me, are pretty harmless. His antics are of somebody who is great enough, an all-time great in the game, that he gets to talk the talk. And he gets to put you to bed night if he wants to, because he's earned that. He's earned that as a player. Not a Draymond Green fan, though.
No, I get
that. Get that dude out of my face.
I get it.
Forever. Get him out of my face. So, 3 NBA playoff games tonight, 4 NHL playoff games tonight.
Are you going to watch any of them?
Kraken Avs probably.
Yeah.
I'll be tuned in for that one. It is amazing how not stressed I am for this Avalanche playoff run compared to last year.
Because they won the title?
Yes. 100%. Like, I remember you talking about, like, KU basketball couldn't hurt you this last year because they were the reigning champs. And it was like you wanted to see them do well. Obviously, much happier when they won than when they didn't. Bummed they lost in the tournament, but not like having a existential meltdown during the season because they were just the champions. What more can you ask of them? It's hard to defend a title. And that's how I feel about the Avalanche. They're so banged up. They've been injured all year long. They somehow won their division anyway. They're without their captain, Gabe Landeskog. It would be totally fine if they didn't win the whole thing. I just expect them that if they don't, that they go out on their shields. And if they do that, I cannot ask for more.
Yeah. And
also don't lose in the first round to a team called the freaking Kraken. Like, don't do that, please.
What sound does a Kraken make?
I think it's in the name. I think Kraken is an onomatopoeia.
Kraken.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. I was going to make a noise, and then I realized I don't know what I'm about to sound like because I don't know what the mythical Kraken sound would be. Hockey tonight, NBA tonight. And we now are going to take a timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got Royals baseball coming up tonight on 580 WIBW. Pregame begins at 6. We'll take a look at some news, notes, and just some thoughts around Major League Baseball, including a potential future young star in the game getting a way below market value deal from the Cincinnati Reds today. We'll tell you about that coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. and Dan with you on 580 Sports Talk, 532 on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. I teased this before the commercial break. Hunter Green, pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. I don't know if he was the number one prospect in the game, but he's been a top prospect for a long time.
He was probably the most highly regarded high school talent going into his draft year.
Okay.
There was a lot of thought he could be, it sounds ridiculous to compare anybody to Shohei Ohtani, but there was some thought he could be a two-way player in the major leagues. He was that well regarded as a hitter and as a pitcher that there was some thought as his draft year approached, maybe the team that takes him could use him both ways. And I think the Reds gave up on that in like 10 seconds.
Great. Love that. He received a 6-year contract extension today. So they're going to buy out some of the arbitration years and some of the team control and all that. He's now just under a regular contract. 6 years, $53 million. That is less than $9 million a year for a guy who the Reds are kind of hoping is going to be a long-term ace or at least frontline starter for them. That's nothing. Did Alex Anthopoulos make a trip up to Cincinnati to get this deal done? Like, this is a Braves move.
Yeah, it really is.
This is
right?
Ozzie Albies signing for pennies on the dollar. And I know that he hasn't been great since starting his career, but this is a player with a lot of potential. I'm surprised he signed for something this cheap. He is now tied for a three-way tie for the youngest pitcher to extend their first contract in MLB history, joining Felix Hernandez and Spencer Strider of the Braves.
So the thing about Hunter Green, the first thing you need to know about him, if you're unfamiliar, if you're hearing this name for the first time or you haven't really watched him play a whole lot, he throws really, 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 really hard. He is the hardest throwing starting pitcher in baseball. He will routinely get to triple digits with his fastball and hold triple digits in his starts in a way that is really rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might see a starter now and then get to 3 digits with the fastball.
Yeah.
Hunter Green will throw 100 a lot. So he has already had Tommy John surgery. He was drafted in 2017. He was the second overall pick in that draft. And he had Tommy John in 2018, didn't pitch in 2019, obviously with no minor league season in 2020, didn't pitch competitively that year either. Made it to the major leagues, debuted last year, stuck it out the whole season with the team, made 24 starts. He's made 4 starts so far this year. So we're 142 innings into the major league career of Hunter Green. And 2 things are apparent. He still throws really, really hard, and he can strike guys out. He struck out 12 guys per 9 over the course of those 142 innings.
Pretty good.
So the question is going to be his durability. We're already talking about 1 Tommy John surgery in his past. Is the arm going to hold up? And if it does, is he going to be able to show the command and the ability to keep people in the ballpark that you need to show to be a starting pitcher? Because the downside with an arm like his is he's a relief monster. He's a 9th inning guy.
Yep.
Is the downside for him. It's like he's that's the floor, is really good reliever.
I mean, since we're talking Reds, one of the comps there is Aroldis Chapman, right? Like, I know lefty versus righty, but like, Chapman, failed starter, has, no, maybe not recently, although for the Royals he's been fine, but became for several years one of the best closers, just relief pitchers in general, who hit 100 all the time.
Yeah, and Hunter Green's been up there around like 102, 103 too, with his fastball, like in the neighborhood where only Aroldis Chapman had been living there for a couple of years. Gave up a bunch of home runs last year. That was a negative. This year, he's kept it in the ballpark much better in his first 4 starts. Given up more hits, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's been bad. Could just mean he's been unlucky. We'll see how those things shake out. But I like it from the Reds' perspective. And from Green's perspective, it's probably a little bit of a hedge against health. You know, already having the Tommy John surgery in his past. It's not uncommon now for guys to have to undergo that procedure twice. We know that the Reds aren't going to go spend a bunch of money in free agency. I mean, if I were Hunter Green, I probably would have held out for a little bit more money. But, you know, they've got something interesting brewing at the top of their rotation right now. Nick Lodolo looks like a stud, 27 strikeouts in 17 innings. Hunter Green, for comparison, 24 in 17 innings. And Graham Ashcraft's not too shabby either. That's a name not a lot of people know, but he had an impressive debut last year, and he has a better ERA than either Green or Lodolo to start this season. And Green's 23, Lodolo and Ashcraft are 25. So there's something stirring in Cincinnati with that starting rotation. And I'm excited. I like watching Hunter Green pitch. He's a guy that if I see that he is a projected starter, that makes me more likely to, if I get a moment, to turn on the Reds game that night.
And if you're a Reds fan, you're a fan of a team that just does not want to spend money and for most of recent memory has not cared about winning. I mean, you've got to be at least a little bit encouraged, not just by the fact that, hey, these guys actually look like they're going to be pretty good, but by the fact that, well, this is a commitment, right? Like we're committing to this dude through his age 29 season. I mean, there's something real here. I would imagine that's at least a little encouraging. You know, like the Royals, when they would extend guys even in some of these bad years, it's like, hey, well, at least we're keeping around some of the good players, like Salvi. You know, you knew that contract was probably going to be gross by the end of it, but look, he's best player on the team. He's a franchise icon, maybe borderline Hall of Fame case at some point after he retires. He deserves the money. He's been underpaid. Fine, whatever. Happy to see it. And we're happy we're keeping guys that matter around. Similar principle, although getting there in a different way if you're Cincinnati, that, well, hey, look, I mean, at least we're committing. At least we're saying, hey, we have this good player with a lot of potential. Let's keep him, instead of doing what Cincinnati has largely done for most of my lifetime, which is, ooh, we've got a player with a lot of potential. Let's move him. Let's get some prospects back. I think it's a smart move for them, to be completely honest with you.
So there is a team option for a 7th year that would be worth $19 million. And there's an escalator for 2028, which is the last year of the extension. So it could max out in the end at 7 years, $91 million, which is still like, if he's pitching well enough that the team wants to pick up the option, then you probably got a steal of a deal for this guy. But the thought process behind this is like right now, and then next year he'd be making the league minimum. And now he gets to make $8 million average.
So if you accept that option, then I think that would be, if my math is correct, like $13 million average annual value.
I think that's right.
Man, that still seems super cheap for a guy who then would be going into age 30
and whose ceiling still is. We talk about his floor. Like his floor is top end, stud reliever. His ceiling is still number one starter, because that's what number one starters do, is strike out 12 guys per 9.
Man, he's not even making old OBJ money. Tough. Should have played slot receiver in the NFL, my friend. Obviously, it's just a joke right there. By the way, before we get to our actual thoughts on the Royals game tonight, I just had FanDuel pulled up here. Yesterday, they were the biggest underdogs in all of baseball for their game. Do you think it is the same tonight?
I do not, because Brad Keller has pitched well, and the Royals tuned up Nathan Eovaldi the first time they faced him last week. I bet they're probably in the neighborhood of like plus 107, plus 108.
104.
Oh, wow. It's gone down.
Plus 104. Yeah, not a whole lot of value, honestly, if you're into that.
It was 108 when I went on with the guys on Mic'd Up earlier today.
Well, there you go. Rangers, if you wanted to bet on them, minus 122. Your biggest underdog of the day.
So your implied odds there are about 43, 44% chance of the Royals winning. Something like that.
Well, it's not awful. The Cubs. No, they just keep getting bigger. Okay, that's Wednesday's games. Yes, tonight. The Cubs are your biggest favorite in Major League Baseball. They're minus 200 against the Oakland Athletics. Cubs' best pitcher, Marcus Stroman, going for the Cubs.
The A's are awful.
It sucks watching a team be that bad. Like, I loved it last night because the Cubs blew them out and they looked great. And 20 hits in the game. Patrick Wisdom, a couple home runs. Cody Bellinger at a 5-hit game. It was awesome. But I'm looking every single time there's a fly ball. There's no one in the outfield. There is no one sitting in the outfield. There were the announced attendance, which was probably double the actual attendance, 4,741. There were not even 4,800 people that went to see a Major League Baseball game that probably had $5 tickets last night.
So I had read something where some A's fans are trying to do a reverse boycott night.
Ridiculous.
Where the idea is that instead of just not going, because why spend your money on A's tickets, the idea is we're going to pack this place. We're going to show our owners that there are still passionate baseball fans that love this team and that would support this team if you gave them something to support. That's the reverse boycott. I don't know how effective that's going to be.
I feel minimally, but I respect the gumption. I really do. No, it sucks, man. And I mean, they're just like, I have no idea if Mark Kotze is a good manager or not, because I mean, he's playing with a AA roster, if that. I mean, it's a bunch of dudes you've never heard of. The Cubs broadcast team was trying to be nice as best as they could last night. Like, well, if you're looking for a reason to be excited, if you're an A's fan, they got a couple guys here. Guys, you don't have to do this. You really do not have to do this.
This, though, is kind of funny that the two best hitters right now for the A's are a former Royal and a former Royals prospect. Esteury Ruiz,
former Royals prospect.
Former Royals prospect. He was in, I forget which trade it was with the Padres.
Strom?
I think it might have been the Strom trade.
I feel like it was Matt Strom.
But anyway, yeah, first full big league. He's kind of kicked around because he went to San Diego and then he went to Milwaukee, I think in the Hader deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came to Oakland this year when Oakland got themselves in that William Contreras, Sean Murphy trade. And so Esteury Ruiz is getting his first look at full-time big league playing time, and his OPS is right around 800. So he's playing very well. It was the Strom, Wood, and Cash and Ruiz trade for 3 pitchers from the Padres. Do you remember all of them? I remember all of them.
Oh man, I will remember them when I hear their names. I can't remember what the deal was though.
Trevor Cahill, Ryan Buchter, and the execrable Brandon Maurer.
Yeah, one of the worst pitchers I've seen.
Brandon Maurer was so bad
so bad.
Anyway, the other correct answer, by the way, to former Royal Brent Rooker.
That's right. It was Brent Rooker. Yeah, he had a 3-homer day the other day.
Yeah.
It was the day game, and Jake walked by my desk, and I said, hey, you remember Brent Rooker? And he goes, no, who's Brent Rooker? I said, he played for the Royals last year, handful of games at the end of the year. He goes, nah, I don't know. Okay, well, never mind then, I guess.
Brent Rooker played 14 games for the Royals. If you remember Brent Rooker's Royals career, you are my kind of sicko.
You need to go outside. That's what you need to do. You need to get a hobby. You need to find some friends. We have to get to a timeout here. We'll talk about Royals, Rangers, and more coming up next segment on 580 Sports Talk. before we get to Royals thoughts for tonight when they take on the Rangers, your NBA lines for this evening as the first round of the playoffs continue. Celtics Hawks, that game will tip off right as we go off the air. Celtics favored by 10.5. Like the underdog in that one to even it up, or the Celtics going to cruise?
I think the Celtics roll. I think they're just a lot better than the Hawks.
I think the Hawks are one of those teams that's just kind of given up. Like, I think they're just kind of done. A lot of rumors that they're going to move or look into moving Trae Young. I think that's a team that's just kind of done with this year. Cavs -6 against the Knicks. I think I might like the Knicks there, +6.
Knicks bullied the Cavs in game 1, but I think Cleveland wins. I like that line. That's a lot of points, but I think Cleveland finds a way tonight to even that series at home.
Suns Clips. Suns favored by 8. Clippers do not have Paul George still.
Yeah, I think the Suns even that series tonight.
I think so too.
8's a lot of points though, but I think the Suns figure it out. Big shooting night for Durant and maybe for Booker as well.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. The boosts, the NBA boosts over at FanDuel tonight. Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, each to have 6+ first quarter points. That's +200.
See, every time I wager on a player to score a certain number of points, they never score in the first quarter. Like, it's amazing. Like, I will play like Giannis to score 30 points, and Giannis will end the first quarter with like 2 points on 1 of 8 shooting. Like, why did I do this? I am my record playing NBA props not great.
So are you also then out on Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, 25 each for the game? +250.
I kind of like that one, actually. Which means you should not play it at home, because if I like it, it's probably a loser.
I mean, I like it for Kawhi. I like it for one of Booker or Durant.
Kawhi had 38 the other night.
I mean, option 1 and 2.
Somebody's got to score, and the Clippers can't really guard outside of Kawhi.
Yeah.
Like Durant, you know what? Yeah, I do. I actually really do like that one.
That's +250. You can go get that at FanDuel right now. Royals baseball tonight. Again, pregame starts right at the top of the hour. And first pitch is set for 6:40 at the K. It's Brad Keller versus Nathan Eovaldi tonight. Royals, as Dan mentioned, roughed up Eovaldi when they played last time, a week or so back. And then tomorrow at 1:10, so it'll eat up the majority of Mic'd Up, and we'll eat into 580 Sports Talk tomorrow. We'll join you after postgame. It'll be Brady Singer, who's really been slumping to open this year, against Martin Perez of the Rangers. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction. Well, tonight maybe you can predict the Royals to win, but what are you hoping to see in these next 2 games?
Well, for Brad Keller, continued success. He pitched really well his last time out. Like to see him build on that, continue to get the swings and misses and the strikeouts that have kind of eluded him so far in his career. And then offensively, like maybe more than 1 hit. Like I think that would be,
wouldn't that be
something
nice?
I would like to see, is to get more than 1 hit in a game. It felt like when they beat up Eovaldi last week and they scored those 10 runs, I think it was a getaway day game in Texas.
Yes, it was.
Last game of that series. That felt like the thing that was going to snap the Royals out of it and kind of get their offense going.
Kind of a frustration win.
Yeah. And then they've lost the next 4 games since then and got 1 hit last night. So what do I know? But hey, maybe it's another opportunity to get after Eovaldi and put a ball or 2 into one of the bullpens and put up a number tonight and support Keller at home.
I'm digging these 6:40 start times.
Me too.
I think that's a really smart decision by the Royals.
Particularly given the faster game times. I mean, theoretically, if you live in the Kansas City metro area, you want to take your kids to a game, a 2.5-hour game. You know, I don't know how long it takes because I've never actually done like the post-game sit in the traffic thing. But like if you can get home in half an hour instead of like that extra half hour is your trip back home, theoretically, like you could be home before 10 o'clock with a 6:40 first pitch. And that's conducive to getting your kids to bed at a decent time on a school night. So it should encourage more attendance, I think, for those games.
I would hope so. I think it's a really smart decision, and I'm surprised they didn't do it earlier.
The only thing that discourages attendance is they're 1-10 at home.
Well, yeah, the fact that they suck really doesn't help.
But they could be 0-11 at home, and you can't beat fun at the old ballpark.
No. Is are Tuesdays Dollar Dog night?
I don't remember what nights are Dollar Dogs.
I don't either, to be honest with you. I will obviously not be going because we work until 6 and the game starts at 6:40 and we have over an hour drive to get there. But if you are listening, especially east of the capital city, or you want to take off right now, maybe you want to go and head out. It's Bark at the Park night tonight.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, Bark at the Park tonight.
Love Bark at the Park.
Oh, Hudler's going to go nuts for dogs out there. And you can get dog toys even. What is it today? A collapsible pet travel bowl. That's your giveaway if you want to go to Bark at the Park tonight. So there you go. We've got to take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up 580 Sports Talk with the final word after this. Time to wrap up 580 Sports Talk for this Tuesday afternoon with a quick final word, Dan.
Kansas State basketball continues to change perceptions of what it is and what it can be. And the addition of 2024 five-star point guard David Castillo, who announced his commitment to the Cats earlier today, is further proof of that concept. Jerome Tang and company are not just going to be one season wonders with a bunch of veteran college guys. They're going to continue to do work on the recruiting trail. They're going to continue to burnish that foundation with the work they do in the transfer portal. And they're going to continue to bring dudes to Bramlage Coliseum and be competitive, because as we saw throughout the last basketball season, why wouldn't you want to be a part of what Tang and company are building in Manhattan?
Final word for me regarding the mock draft we read from Dane Brugler earlier on in the show and broke down. Dane Brugler's better at breaking down the draft than absolutely anybody out there. And I thought all of his picks for the Chiefs made sense. Size, thresholds, positions of need, all of that. But by the same token, I want at least a little pizzazz in the draft. Like one of the first three picks, give me a little something that's got some spice to it. Even if it's a player that I find to be just kind of that I'm not super thrilled about, move up to get him. Make a big jump to go get him. I just want a little spice. That one from The Athletic, not the spiciest. I want just a little hint of that, and then I'll feel a little bit better about what the Chiefs do in just 9 days when the NFL draft starts. That does it for 580 Sports Talk. We will be back tomorrow as soon as Royals baseball postgame ends in their series finale with the Texas Rangers. We'll talk to Tim Fitzgerald. There's some new proposed rules that Major League Baseball is going to test in the Atlantic League. And folks, I'll be blunt, they are so dumb, it makes my head spin. We are going to talk about those tomorrow. We've got so much more coming up. We've also got Royals baseball here tonight, 6 o'clock pregame right here at the top of the hour. First pitch is set for 6:40. Brad Keller on the mound at the K. We'll talk to you tomorrow after Royals postgame. Until then, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Appreciate you as always for listening to 580 Sports.